Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
I don't know, but it says you're logged on, Karen.
And he goes,
You can just pick up with them. That concludes my statement.
Oh, it's the coolest thing ever.
I'm gonna give that to Robinson. When she takes the dogs out in the middle of the night, she can see that.
maybe.
Yeah, you are.
We're good.
Doesn't happen ever.
Maybe
All
that
right.
should be a big answer.
We're on YouTube.
Oh, my God.
I thought it was a canteen or something.
It's bright.
That's awesome. Take a picture, send it to Rob.
Tractor Supply. I bought like a ton. I'm like, this will be great. Yeah, and they're cute because they're red and green and striped, so they're like festive.
It seems like we're live.
We are live. I'm
Yes.
confirming that on the YouTube now. So Matt, are we good to go? Oh,
It's playing the stream.
can you hear us?
He does.
Boy,
Okay.
poor Matt's computer just couldn't take it anymore.
Are we going to be able to see Jen and Joe here?
Yep, he's going to get us up and running. But I think we are on YouTube now, so we are going to proceed with the meeting. When I asked everybody for their patience, I wasn't joking, so I appreciate patience. A lot of moving parts linked together, so thank you. Mr. Kramer?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nunziata. When we broke a moment ago, I was saying that the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, has also now created the situation that we didn't have when the board made the decision that we no longer needed this property for school purposes. And as it turns out, and as the board has, I understand, given directive, we may very well need this property based on the need for social distancing in the foreseeable future, which translates to the need for more space so that the students in school can be spread out more. Obviously, having another building like this with classrooms will enable the district to take care of that need. I think from anecdotal evidence, what we're all seeing on from television, and certainly the experts on television, kids learn much better when they're in school as opposed to distance learning. So if the district has the ability to have and maintain classroom facilities where in-school learning can continue to take place, that's obviously the way to go. So for that reason as well, in addition to the problem with the tainting of the public sale process, the change of the landscape with respect to the COVID and now the renewed need for the district to perhaps utilize the space, we have communicated to Colliers that the marketing should be discontinued. My understanding is that the Collier sign on the front of this building, if you've been there, I believe Colliers picked it up. I don't think that the school took it down, but I know it's not there now.
Okay, do any members of the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
No, good. All right. Thank you, Mr. Kramer.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Nunziata.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, after item D, I'm also going to add a second presentation. We have under a discussion item for later in the meeting, the track and turf field replacement project. But Mr. Foley, our athletic director, is joining us this evening. So we are going to move that up to item D1, or we'll make that D2. The track and turf and field replacement project.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I was able to spend some time with the Buildings and Grounds Committee on Tuesday and discuss the possibility and direction of the replacement of the field turf within the stadium and also the
Hey,
track.
Bill, maybe you can move the microphone closer to your mouth, or maybe he can Matt. All right, he's got it. Sorry, it's hard to hear you.
Need me to repeat that at all? You're good. Everybody, you're good? You good? Okay, thank you. So as I said, we did meet on Tuesday. We had a very good meeting, productive meeting, I think. The conversation first started this spring. It'll be about 2 years ago. I had the conversation with Mr. Kepnes as far as just, putting out on the radar that we will need to replace the turf at some time. And I wanted to be prepared and not run into any trouble where we were kind of caught off guard. So the conversations were productive at the time and then kind of stalled. And then when I knew Mr. Kepnes was resigning, made me a little nervous. But Ms. Reese picked up very well from where he left off and initiated some conversations with the board. And that's what led us to our meeting on Tuesday to discuss the possible replacement. And I've done obviously some homework and some research, getting some proposals and some quotes from vendors. Obviously, talking to colleagues in my profession, my fraternity of athletic directors, it's just a tremendous asset to have because everybody's kind of going through the same things at various times. And you can always reach out. And if you ever have a situation, there's always been somebody in the past who's had that similar experience and they can guide you and help you with some things. So we're always there to help and assist with each other. And obviously, asking some of my colleagues if they've gone through the replacement process or what direction they actually went in. So again, just combining all that information and presenting it on Tuesday as far as the need to replace the turf system. It's been 13 years now that we've had the turf system, and obviously there is some wear and tear. And again, just to be prepared. And I never wanted to get to a point in time where we ever had to cancel a season due to damage or due to failure in the expectancy of the turf. Obviously, I think it's just better be prepared as opposed to waiting for something bad to happen. So that's where we're at. Everybody has seen the field turf proposals, I believe. So I am here if you have any questions or concerns.
So the total combined cost for both projects is going to be in the ballpark of around 700,000?
Yes.
Correct. And the board made a deposit into our capital reserve account for around 500,000 last month or 2 months ago. So my questions are going to probably be more related to that. So they'd probably be a bit more directed towards Ms. Reese. So Ms. Reese, what are the options for funding the replacement of them? Would we entirely use capital reserve? Would we use capital reserve and operating funds?
That's really a board decision. I mean, I can certainly make some recommendations and, we can play out how this will work out of next year's budget because that's what we're recommending, that it be done over the summer. So it doesn't interfere with the spring sports. And we can just present those to you and you can decide which way you want to fund it.
Okay.
And the field turf company that we would be continuing to work with, we would be a repeat customer. They've obviously guaranteed first-rate service and us at the top of the line if we did choose to go with them and pick a date for this summer.
I know we had asked to have the track, given a price for the track as well. does that have to meet certain safety requirements? Like I know the field turf will fail for safety. Will the track also fail for a safety?
Well, that would be more visual.
Mhm.
And I did take some photos of the track and some of the tearing and ripping we do have on the external areas of the track, which eventually are just going to seep into the lanes. We also have many undulated areas where the drainage is not working too well, especially on the two corner areas on the home feature side, where at any time, that could be a detrimental factor to any runners.
Have we talked to any other companies? Is this the only proposal we have?
Yes, I had 3 different proposals for both the turf and the track system. And price-wise, 2 were similar in the field turf. One was much higher with the field turf, and the track systems were pretty much in the same ballpark. Again, I think just like anything else, you establish relationships with people, and we've had a good relationship with Field Turf. It's lasted this long for us. Their price is the best price that we have, and the track system, we originally went with a group, and they did come in with a bid for the price, but there was another company within the Field Turf system that, again, just personally, the way they talked about doing the repairs, I felt was much better and more in depth than our original track vendor was preparing to do for us.
I guess this question is more for Donna. Don't we have to go out to bid for this?
Co-op.
It's a co-op.
It's a co-op, so we don't have to go out to bid, okay. So we're not obligated to accept the lowest bid?
Doesn't have to go to bid
Okay.
because it's through a co-op.
But there-
Co-op does all your bidding for you.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
So these vendors have already been approved by the state.
By the-
Yeah,
or
it's
by
through
the
the
co-op.
Ed Services Commission. It used to be the Middlesex County Cooperative. Now it's called Ed Services.
Okay.
So the other bids were higher or lower than this bid?
Higher.
They
Yeah,
were
this
higher. Okay, I didn't
combination
understand
bid
what you
was,
said.
This is the best proposal.
Okay,
We did have a very in-depth Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, and I want to thank Mr. Foley. He did a tremendous job in educating us. We did speak about the track and the field, and also the tennis courts. We decided to forego the tennis courts at this time and just focus on the track and field. We thought that that was the most advantageous at this time. So that we were going to go ahead with that recommendation from the Buildings and Grounds Committee to move forward with the track and field.
I know we don't need to go out to bid, but I do think that it's important that the board formally approve the project, especially because of the price tag. So I'd like to have that as a recommendation for the public meeting next week. So if anybody has any questions about this project, either tonight or in the next few days, please try to get them to the administration.
I do have
What
another
is the-
question.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead, Natalie. I'll go after you.
Under price does not include, there's a pretty large list of things that are not included. So I think we should probably get an idea of what this price tag might be. Because if, it says if unsuitable soils are encountered, a price to remedy this can be negotiated. There's a couple different things that might drive up this cost. So I think to get as much information as possible, so we know, is 700,000 really it? Or could it go to 800,000?
Well, with the drainage issue, we might, once they take that out, we might uncover.
Exactly. So I mean, can we estimate that? The
and
other-
any of those additions you're going to see on any proposal.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. But could we get like a rough, is it possible to get a rough idea? If this happens, the range for this cost would be $5,000 to $10,000. I don't know. If
Well,
that's-
one thing that we have to remember is that there's already an existing turf field there. So what they would be doing is taking up the old turf, taking up the rubber pellets and sand that's there, and putting down new pellets and sand and a new turf. There really isn't much change in the soil condition.
No, I understand that, but there's a pretty long list here, and the other note says something about union labor. Is this subject to prevailing wages?
It was already bid out that way.
It was already bid out that way.
Through the
Okay,
co-op.
just want to make sure, because that note is in there, so.
Yep. I think that's just, pro forma language. That's
Okay.
probably in all their contracts.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, I know we had the Maple Grange fields were done not too long ago. How does this price compare to one field that was done at Maple Grange? Do we know?
Much lower,
Much lower?
much lower.
Um,
And again, it's a product that we've had and it's lasted for 13 years. And it's a system that was just put in by Sparta, West Milford, Roxbury, Indian Hills, Pascack Hills locally. I mean, I can go on, Giant Stadium. And again, I think when you're talking about who you're planning to work with that with that product and that leadership, what was the previous relationship, the established relationship?
You have confidence in them, right?
Yes.
What is the useful life range for for both the field and the track? Has that changed over time? Is it?
Funny you bring that up. Nobody is willing to go out on a limb and say the newer technology now gives you this span of life. Typically, any turf, there's going to be a warranty of 8 years. Again, ours after year 13, I've only heard of one other school that's had their turf longer than 13 years. Everybody else has replaced it within 10.
Yep.
So it could be 8 to 10, 10 to 12, but any of the vendors, they're not going to go out on a limb and really give you that extra. I mean, there's different technology. One of the field turf fibers, there's actually a 10-year warranty on it, which I would like to see if we can have interest in doing so.
Mhm. Okay.
I just want to correct something that Joe said, and Joe, I don't want to single you out, but you mentioned about soil conditions under the turf. I just want the public to know there's really not soil underneath the turf. It's gravel and quarry process, and that's one of the reasons why it is not readily or easily available to go from a turf field, a synthetic turf field, to a grass field. I know the argument always comes up that grass is cheaper and they should just rip up the turf and throw down grass seed. I really wish it were that simple. Somebody who grows grass for a living knows what it takes to maintain, fine turf. And in order to do a football field or an athletic field, from synthetic turf to natural grass again, it is not cheap. And now with all the things going on with the environmental, all the soil that comes in would have to be tested, which is not cheap. You have to do an irrigation system, which is not cheap. You would have to apply plant protectants, which everybody doesn't want to do, and actually is against the law on school properties to apply plant protectants. You would have to have specialized equipment to maintain. It is not cheap considering what annual maintenance goes into a turf field as opposed to a synthetic field. One, you're paying upfront one lump. The other one, you're paying out over time. Talking about machines, there are machines that we use to maintain a synthetic field. Do we have those? Are they operable? Are they?
Yeah, we have one raking system now, and Field Turf has said that they would supply us with some machinery at no extra cost.
And I just want the public to know that when this field went in, I was dead set against it. I grow grass for a living. I like grass. But once you're down that road with a synthetic turf field, to go back to natural grass is not financially feasible at all.
Thank you, Brad.
I don't think you were on the board when we voted to have a turf field. Were you, Brad?
No, I was off. If I was, I would have voted no, Joe.
I was on the board. We voted for it. I voted for it. At the time, the field was only getting the use of the football field and the halftime marching band. Now this field is used by so many more teams. It's getting much more use. And it's lasted a lot longer than we thought.
To that point, is there a time of year that's going to be least disruptive, and how long would the disruption if you're going with a field and a track? What would that process look like?
My hope is that once graduation is complete, and I'm just guessing, but I'm thinking that it would take part early June, just due to the fact that we could be virtual and snow days, for instance. And again, talking with the company, you know, they've given me their word that we would be first priority for the summer. So if we had graduation on, and I'm not sure what the dates are, you know, Friday the 12th of June, that Monday, you know, they would be ready to go.
Bill, are they going to be, I'm sorry, Mr. Foley, are they going to be recycling the crumb rubber and sand out, or are they going to be installing it?
Yes, yeah, they would like to recycle it.
So that's a
clean it.
savings also.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, too, I know at one point in time, I don't know where it stands now, I know the lower field at Maple Grange is on the radar to be replaced. Is there any efficiencies that we can gain there with the town contracting at this time to do the field, even though it might not be done now in the future?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I would have to touch base with Michelle Downtain in regards to that. But I know last time when they were going through it, we weren't ready.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think with us being ready now, I don't personally think that they're ready. And just from my conversations, to do anything this summer with their fields. So it makes sense, but I just think we're on different timetables.
Sure.
And just going back to Mr. Chili's question, the turf replacement would take about 3 weeks. So if we say we were to do it the middle of June, say first week into July, we would still have, you know, plenty of time to hopefully do the track after that, which would be in time for August, say August 10th, August 15th or so, when fall sports would take place.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, so we'll have a recommendation on the agenda for next week's meeting.
And that was to approve the project?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Foley.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. And if, obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for coming.
You're more welcome to stick around for the next 3 hours if you want.
Okay, so item E is public participation limited to items on the work session agenda and any student comments. So the public participation section is going to be broken into 3 different sections today. The first will be the comments that were received via the email. I will read those into the record. Then we will go to our valued members of the public who we have a huge crowd tonight here in person. They will have an opportunity to speak. And then those who are joining us via the Zoom webinar as attendees, we will go to them as well. Bear with us because I've never navigated this before, so I'll just ask for your patience on that. Also, I apologize that I have not read the comments that I'm about to read into the record this week, so they may not fall under the parameters of limited to items on the work session agenda. For future meetings, I will try between 5 and 6 to read them and see where they belong, but I'm going to read all of them. At this time, there are only 4 comments. The first one is from Christy Virgilito, and that is, my daughter is a freshman and I am very concerned about the time that they spend on the computer. Many of the days the Zoom is more an admin check, attendance, homework, etc., and very little lessons. There are definitely teachers who teach during the Zoom, but some are just checking the box. The kids then have a lot of homework, which keeps them on the computer for most of the afternoon. Kids this age should not be on the computer from 9 to 2 or 4. It's just too much. Can we consider having days that are only virtual with no Zooms? Perhaps 2 days, Wednesday and Friday. And that was a comment from Christy Virgilito. Next comment is from Juliana Donegan from the Stockholm section of town. I have a few comments for the first grade instruction and 1 comment for middle school. Regarding first grade, Zooms with the main teacher cannot be 1 hour and 15 minutes. Unrealistic for this group to stay focused and engaged. Break into 30 minutes and have them take a break. 2, on days with a lot of Zooms, reduce online work. Parents can't keep up with all of this work on top of Zooms. 3, don't have specials to do work online now that we have Zooms with them. Cover everything in the Zoom. For middle school, accept that middle schoolers are kids and not college students who are adult enough to organize themselves. Allow better underhand, less rigid guidelines for late work. We can't do everything the same day sometimes. Break the lateness rules. This school is not real school, so same rules don't apply. And what parents and kids have to go through is way far from normal. So please don't give us much stringent rules on submissions and grades going down after day 1. Thank you. And that was a comment from Juliana Donegan. The next comment is from Samantha Gascone of Cedar Ridge. Thank you for taking my comments today. My name is Samantha Gascone of Cedar Ridge in Vernon. I have 3 children in different Vernon schools. At the last Board of Ed meeting, with a group of us expressed our concerns of our children's mental health with this virtual school. We expressed how scared we were for their future. One by one, we spoke at the end of our comments that took us a lot of thought, time, courage to say we were dismissed in just a few sentences. Your children will be fine. Children bounce. I'm not ready to gamble on the health of my children, as so many other parents are not ready to, just because the president of the teachers union thinks that they will be fine, as kids have gone through wars before. We understand there are steps being taken right now to try and make virtual learning better. This is not a long-term fix. This is only a short-term solution as we prepare to get our students and teachers back in the building. Our districts have been taking the right steps against positive COVID cases of COVID-19. We are being advised all over by the CDC, by Fauci, that our kids need to be in school. After the winter break, steps should be in place to move the kids back into the building immediately and take the steps toward our full-time reopening plan and undo the damage the last 9 months have caused these kids, and even the damage to our teachers. We can be safe and have in-person learning. Thank you for your time. And that comment was from Samantha Gascone. The final comment submitted by email was from Stephanie Lukasik from Sussex side of Vernon. Hello, my name is Stephanie Lukasik from the Sussex side of Vernon. I'm writing to express concern on virtual learning continuing after our January return date. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have been told to follow the science. If we listen to the science, the kids belong in the building, learning in person. Children have not shown to be driving the spread of COVID-19. We as a district, in fact, have had no in-school transmission of COVID-19. We've also seen that our children's mental health is suffering. These are facts. We know depression and anxiety are up while grades are down. They are way down across the country. We've heard from Dr. Fauci, the American Academy of Pediatrics, as well as the CDC, that schools should be open. We know that one of the safest places for children and staff is in the controlled environment of school. With our schools closed, children are mixing more than ever. Every day I see posts looking for sitters, tutors, childcare providers, and other families to form learning pods with. Virtual school learning hubs are popping up in gymnastics schools, karate studios, closed schools in other towns, as well as our very own PAL. If everyone thinks kids are doing less social mixing now than when we were in school, they are wrong. Grandparents, aunts, neighbors, friends are all being called on to assist with childcare and online learning. These kids need to be in school. They are used to the masks, they follow the rules, we have desk shields, proper ventilation, and we are successful in keeping the schools open up until Thanksgiving. We should be leaders in the county, open up our schools, put the students first, and set the example that Vernon always pushes forward and puts the education of our children first. There's no time to waste. Vernon does not have to abide by the county health officials' guidance. We can be open. And that was a comment from Stephanie Lukasik. And that was the last of the comments that were submitted via email. So at this time, we will switch it over to members of the public who have attended in person this evening. If they have any comments, they can step up to the podium. Please state their name, part of town, and they would also have 5 minutes.
Can you also write in your name and the section of town on that piece of paper there? There's nothing there?
Oh, I
It's
bet you
okay, we
Gary
have
Kramer
Martin
took
O'Donnell.
it with his.
What?
We
file.
got it.
Oh, Bill took it.
Somebody has stolen the piece of paper.
Oh,
Here, you know what, I'll give you this.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
We know Martin.
We know who you are.
You know who I am.
Yes.
It's
Okay.
Bill.
So I'll start. Martin O'Donnell, Sussex section of Vernon. As I was reviewing the agenda this afternoon, I came across something in G, which is the superintendent's area, and it's actually labeled 1 on page 3, but I believe it should be labeled 5. I could be wrong. At any rate, it is the recommendation that the board approve the school business administrator. So upon looking into the salaries of the business administrators throughout Sussex County, what I found is Vernon is the highest, and in fact, $44,000 above the average. So looking at this, we've kind of set a precedence that we're the highest, and I think that with Mr. Kepnes's retirement, we had an opportunity here to save some money. I'm not sure we did that. I'm not sure we're going to do that, given that the new business administrator is looking for $170,000. I think what we're doing here is we're continuing our old precedents instead of setting a new one. The average salary for a business administrator in Sussex County is $123,000. So again, we're 36% above the average. So it prompted me to look a little further in this. So the individual that you guys have selected, or the team has selected there for the business administrator, came to my knowledge that they came from Branchburg. So I did a little bit of research here. And these are, by the way, these are 2019, 2020 numbers. So even if you add like 3% to all of them, we're still in the same boat. It turns out that this individual who we've made an offer, or are going to make an offer of $170,000 to, made $145,000 from 2019 to 2020. So put on that 3-4% raise for this year, they're still sub $150,000. So I guess my question is, why are we offering somebody who is in this price range $20,000 more than they're making? Are they going to do more? I don't understand it. Okay. And I don't understand why some of these other school districts who, some of them, like let's say Sparta, are close to our size and what we have. Why are we paying so much for a business administrator when we have an opportunity here to be creative and maybe save some money? We're talking about $700,000 in football fields. Okay. $20,000 isn't a lot of money, but it adds up if we keep looking at things and trying to save money in certain areas where we actually can. And indeed, this poses a 17% increase for this person to go from there to here. I would do it too. All right, so I urge the board to vote this down tonight and take another look at it, save some money for the town, and hopefully start a different precedence so that we can come in at least a little closer to the average and not be the most expensive house on the street. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like me to respond?
There's an agenda item for that, so we can have a board discussion after we have a motion on the item. Any other public comments from members of the public in person? Okay. Now we're going to go over to the members of the public who are attending as attendees. So Mr. Shea, you may have to walk me through this. So if they would like to submit a comment, they have to raise their hand, hit a button to raise their hand, and then how do we admit them?
You can tell me which one you want and I allow them.
Okay, so you can do that. Okay. And then they will be able to either video or audio or both.
Can you see who's raising their hand?
Yeah, there's a list of attendees that I can see.
Yeah. Oh.
So
And are they raising their hand?
I don't see a hand. All right, so if anybody who's,
Just to see if it works.
Yeah, good idea.
What's that?
Ask someone to rate it just to see if it works.
This is Zoom, right?
Yeah, we can try.
Can somebody just
Okay,
raise their
Barb
hand so we can see if it
Monschauer-
works?
Barb
We have a
Monschauer just
hand.
raised her hand,
We have
so,
three
okay.
hands.
Good.
Oh, that's fun.
so why don't we admit Miss
Yeah,
Mrs.
like those little
Monschauer?
things in the, yeah.
Hi, it's Mrs. Munschauer. I didn't have anything to say at this moment, but I just raised my hand so you could know how it worked.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We use it a lot, so we're.
Barb Monschauer is always one of our most helpful people in the district, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that Heather Franey has her hand raised.
Now, can we see her as well?
If she chooses, otherwise she can just be audio.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
If you could just state your name and part of town, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Sure. It's Heather Franey, and I'm from the Sussex side of Vernon. Thank you for listening to my comments. I'll be brief. I just wanted to let you know that I have 3 children, 2 in the high school and 1 in Lounsbury. Just to circle back on some of the previous comments, I have to say my children are trying. They're not as resilient as people think. They really are suffering. I don't think, the children in this town, I'm hearing through other parent groups and friends, the mental health of our children has suffered so much since March. The grades have plummeted. The students really need to go back to school. They need to open up the schools again as soon as possible. My biggest point, and a question I've asked a couple of times, is that if you have more than one child, it is very difficult, even with one child, but if you have more than one child with numerous teachers, it is very difficult to balance all of this. And now with the virtual Zooms, I know everybody's trying their best, but why can't the teachers record the lessons? Because if someone has a doctor's appointment or is sick, there's nothing to reference. We can't go back. It's not the same if you're just reading assignments. So I'd really like to encourage, some kind of change while we're doing this hybrid virtual learning. If the teachers could just hit a button and record the lessons so that the children and the parents can work as a team and help them learn, because they're really suffering. Thank you.
Thank you. May I believe Margot Dinaxis has her hand raised?
Hi, my name is Margot Dinaxis. I am from the Glenwood area of Vernon. And I just wanted to make a few comments as a concerned parent within the district. This year for everyone has been a challenging one. And while I do believe there have been attempts to make the best of it for our children to get the best education possible, the truth is that nothing compares to the education that it looked like a year ago. I commend the school district in their rigorous efforts in making the best out of this situation. However, I would be amiss if I did not say that this is at the detriment of our students. Every home, every parent, every student has their own story. My 2 children come from a home where both parents work full-time. My husband is a math teacher in Goshen High School, and I manage anesthesia departments in the hospitals throughout the state. We were barely keeping it together during the hybrid schedule, and we're at the breaking point now in this completely synchronous days of learning. It is way too much, and your students and struggling parents are frustrated, tired, and as if we were set up to fail. Our weekends have become a desperate attempt to make up any assignments we do not get done during the week. There's never a day off from school. Perhaps if I did not live with someone who is in education, I might not know any better. But as of recent as yesterday, in my husband's school, the teachers were encouraged to give Wednesdays as a catch-up day for their students and told them to think hard before they made any assignments to the children, as it was crushing them. Goshen has listened to its parents, and I'm hoping that Vernon will do the same. While I'm not advocating no Zooms or no work, I do believe there can be a healthy balance of each. I do want to mention one other fact that cannot be discounted, and that is the mental and emotional well-being of our students. I will tell you there are tears and anger coming from my 2 children every day. It's a side of them that I have not seen, and it's upsetting for a parent. If the process, an education is only as good as the experience they're having. If the process is met with tears and anger, even if the facts and figures are memorized, it will never resonate with them to propel them to a good experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margo. Barb Monschauer has her hand raised, if you could.
I can't figure out how to show you my face because I don't have the same choices as I do when I'm the host. And I'm not sure if this is an appropriate response, but for the videotaping of lessons, we have students who are not allowed to be photographed. And that is a strong safety concern. And a lot of teachers are making screencastify videos unavailable for help. So just want to assure parents that we are doing everything we possibly can to help your children. Everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments from members of the public attending via Zoom? Heather Franey.
Hi, I just wanted to touch upon the request about the videotaping of the lessons. A teacher can teach a lesson in front of a computer screen and record the lesson without the students being recorded. That's what we're asking for.
Thank you. Seeing no additional comments, I will close it to the public at this time. Thank you to everyone for your patience as we navigate this new platform.
Actually worked out better than I thought it was going to.
That was pretty easy. I mean, it was easy for us.
It was, yeah, Matt, that was pretty easy, Matt. Real easy.
Kelly says it was easy.
It was easy. We should get that easy button.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Okay, item F is review of the public meeting agenda that should have been in everyone's packet for next Thursday. We do need to make sure that we add to that the recommendation to approve the turf football field and the track.
Mm-hmm.
Any additional requests from members of the board?
I'm sorry.
Any additional requests regarding the agenda?
Oh, no.
Ms. Coughlin, you sent an email with the request for the public meeting agenda.
I did. Thank you. Thank you about that. I sent a request because Special Services Committee meeting, I'm sorry, the Special Services Committee met with the CPAG and the administration. What happens is the CPAG, Special Education Parent Advisory Group, calls meetings with the board, Special Services Committee, and the administration. And they brought forth questions and concerns and thoughts to the administration and the board. So therefore, I had made a request, notified the administration and the board, if we could please have the CPAG thoughts, concerns, and questions brought forward and placed on the public meeting agenda for next week. And that way it can be a public discussion and any parent would be able to, you know, understand and learn about the special education perspective. Thank you, Mr. Nunziata.
So
what specifically would you like us to place on? I think I would like to have it placed on the agenda, the CPAG, what they brought forward to us. They brought forward an agenda with 5 different topics, so possibly discussing those 4 or 5 different topics that they brought forward to us, and then that way it could just be explained and discussed to the general public.
So I just,
Trying to see where that would be most appropriate to place it.
may I ask for further clarification?
Yeah.
At the risk of just trying to be thorough, and I pulled up another email to try to answer Mr. O'Donnell's question, so I have to try to access, I believe the email request. I think Teresa's trying to do that as well, so thank you. My question is, was it the top half of the email that talked about interim director of special services on the org chart, or was it the bottom portion of the email with the CPAC? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, hold on one second.
I just want to provide what the board is asking.
The Special Education Parent Advisory Group, CPAG, Administration and Special Services Committee met on Monday. I request to have an agenda item placed on the Thursday, December, I wrote 15th, but it's 17th, 2020 agenda in regard to the CPAG's discussion items, see bottom of email. They came and brought a few open topics to us. Accessing virtual therapy, in-person option for special education, aids and virtual learning, accommodations in virtual learning, mental health trauma-informed counselor protocol. The last agenda they brought to us was not relevant. That was open floor for our meeting. And then I also asked to receive an update for the board and the public, an update regarding an interim director of special services.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so
It sounds like it goes beyond a committee report, right?
yeah, so
Would it be most appropriate to put on a work session agenda, because it sounds like it may be more of a discussion?
I can't hear you. What?
It sounds like it goes beyond a committee report.
It does.
And it sounds like it might be more of a, not a presentation, but more of a discussion. So would it be most appropriate to put it on a work session agenda rather than a public meeting?
Now, under normal circumstances, I would say yes. So let's say we had a few days prior. We just met on Monday, and then we're waiting for answers and whatnot from both sides. So it took a little time. So I didn't think it would be fair for anyone right now to have it on the agenda this evening. But the problem is it's already December 10th, and apparently numerous parents came to the CPAG and asked them questions, and the parents would like to know what's happening. So when we meet with the CPAG, it's the leadership team comes to us representing parents of students with 504s or IEPs, or students who, you know, they're concerned may need one. So I had thought that under normal circumstances, a work session, but to wait all the way till January wouldn't be prudent at this time. So since we happen to be having a meeting next week, and I didn't think tonight would be enough time for anyone, therefore to have it on for next week. But yes, a discussion item, and I will report about it next week during committee meeting, but I am not an administrator, so therefore I cannot discuss that because we're not allowed to administer.
So I'm gonna, so I think that the most appropriate place would be under M1, and that could be item E, an update from the CPAG admin committee meeting. And that can be a discussion item for the board.
Yeah, that's fine.
That was M as in Mary? M1.
Yeah, so it'd be M1E.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just have a question. Underneath correspondence, we have a verbal resignation. I don't know we accepted verbal resignations. Shouldn't it be in writing?
Is that on the next week's agenda, Brad, that you're
Yep, it's
talking
on
about?
correspondence.
Yeah, we took it in
Where's it
verbal, but we
at?
can get it in writing, Brad.
What's
I'll
that,
get it-
Chuck?
I'll get it in writing.
Okay.
I don't think it gives us too much of a leg to stand on, because just have
Sure.
verbal.
No, we get it.
All right. Anything else for the public meeting agenda? Okay, item G, Ms. Davino, discussion items.
Sorry, just making notes so that I don't forget anything for next week. Number one, thank you to Maureen Remner, General Manager from Sodexo, and her staff, Judy Morris, Megan Arnold, Pam Finch, Janice Bloomer, Mary Jane Cox, Debbie Macaluso, Donna Perry, and Andrea Barnable for going above and beyond providing meals to our district students. There's just a table there for the members of the public. During the month of October, the total breakfast served were 4,822. Total lunches served were 5,521. In November, the number of meals served were 7,736 for breakfast and 8,389 for lunch. So our community is taking advantage of the meals that we have available to them. Just wanted to report that to the board. May I continue?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Number two on the item for discussion is pass-fail. There was a discussion at our previous board meeting, I believe, about the desire to talk about a pass-fail option for students. At this time, I am not recommending a pass-fail for our students. We met with the faculties. Dr. McKay and I have been having listening sessions with the faculties for the last couple of weeks. There have been many topics discussed. This was one of them. I am not recommending that we move in that direction, but I think Dr. McKay has some additional things that he'd like to share.
Well, I also asked the administration and the teachers to put it in writing so that everyone here was aware of their concerns. And as it states in the letter from the administration, they say the members of the Vernon Township Administrators Association are writing to express our opinion as school leaders that we would like to maintain our current grading system established in the Vernon Township School District. And then, of course, the union also made their statement as well. We were part of listening sessions for the past 2 Mondays with each of the staffs, so we wanted to report that out. I also want to report out that one of the things that the grading system has mentioned is the fact that the lowest grade would be a 55, and that was what the administrators are recommending, so that there's a threshold, if you will.
But that's still a failing grade, correct?
Yes.
I respect the input from our faculty and our educators. I also, though, hear the concerns being brought forward by families and students that are really struggling in very difficult circumstances. So balancing those two inputs is very challenging. I would like us to I understand that this is an administrative decision because it affects the day-to-day operations of the schools. I would have liked us to see us do more to support our students with our grading policies in these circumstances. I think that we can do more. I don't know that it necessarily has to be we do pass-fail or we do our traditional grading system. I think that there are other things that could be considered, whether it's raising the floor for the lowest grade, whether it's allowing pass-fail for one grade, for one subject level. I think Mr. Chili or Mr. Peak, one of you suggested that at the last meeting. I would have liked to see us do more.
Grades have improved the second marking period from what we're seeing. How about I report out at the end of the second marking period on where we are with the grades?
Well, I think we should definitely have an update.
Yeah.
I don't know that impacts or changes the need for us to be doing something, but that is my opinion on the matter.
To that point too, I just would like to add that I know there was comments in here about I don't want to say leniency of grading, but maybe being empathetic to the situation. I was just wondering if there was a way to have a more consistent approach to maybe put more emphasis on participation, put more emphasis on effort made by the students during these times, so that is a bigger portion of the grade perhaps than under normal circumstances. I kind of agree that the pass-fail might not be the right motivator, but if every student can feel, hey, if I put forth the effort, I have a real opportunity, a real chance. And if that could be some sort of consistency, what I'm hearing is it's not very consistent from perhaps teacher to teacher. I know that's not always the case, but the more I think the administration can encourage some more consistency across classes, I think could help, my opinion.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add that what I've been hearing from parents over and over and over again is the situation with late work and just not having A, inconsistency, and B, just they're so overwhelmed. And you heard somebody talk tonight about spending the weekend catching up. And, I keep hearing that comment about if there could be a little bit more leniency with late work, particularly in the younger grades. I mean, I think a lot of the teachers are doing this already. And I know that we're always, it seems like, reluctant to try to have a policy across the board on that, because I brought that up and apparently that's not really something we do. But that's what I hear from parents, that they're really, there's a lot of pressure. It's just pressure on these kids. You got to get this done. Yeah, you're in Zooms all day and then you got to work all night to get your stuff in, or you're going to get, points taken off. And that's just a lot on our families right now.
Jen, if I could build on what you said, thanks for bringing that up. Did you get a copy of this letter, Jen?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure which one you mean. I got many letters today.
We just received this letter tonight. It's dated December 4th, but we were just given it tonight at the table. So I would like to read a section to you to build on what you just said, because I read through this. It says, all teachers have been encouraged to be very flexible with their assignments, grading, and accepting late work. This flexibility has resulted in some very positive outcomes during a difficult time. Our teachers are very sensitive to students' situations and have made many reasonable accommodations for all students to be successful in their classes. So that's good. That builds on, so that way now we know that they've all been encouraged to be very flexible. Another thing is it says the 55%, and then it just says, but maybe Dr. McKay could explain this. It says, in actuality, the educators of the Vernon Township School District have implemented a pass-fail system that still holds students accountable for their studies. What does that mean?
Well, the idea simply is that we want our students to be successful, so therefore they're responsible for the grade they earn. But if we put the threshold in there, we're saying that we do not want their grade, their failing grade, to so affect them that they would give up in the process of educating. So therefore, we're trying to hold it at a certain point so that they would be able to then be successful.
Okay. And then it said, while we did adopt a pass-fail system last spring, we now have all systems in place for students to be successful either in a hybrid or exclusively online learning model. Hence, using our regular grading system with the lowest grade being a 55 is the grading system recommended. We are recommending.
The traditional grading system.
Traditional grading system. So can you please tell us, it says, I mean, if they're saying for students to be successful, as a Board of Education, we sit here, our main goal is student achievement. So can you tell us what all systems are in place for students to be successful? Because I would think failing is not successful. So that's great news. All systems are in place. What all systems in place are there?
I believe that this was written, of course, by the administrators. I believe that the systems that they have put in place where there was concerns, as I expressed to you when the first marking period was over. And I met with each of the principals to discuss the failures. And again, we had the listening to our folks. The things that have been put in place is that guidance counselors are now talking to students. All of our principals have made calls home to every family that had a student that failed and had discussions with parents. In those discussions, the principals have reported out what some of the concerns were, because we were wondering whether they were technology concerns or whether it was the students, and it was student engagement. But the parents have been encouraged by those discussions, have been very thankful to the administrators that made all of those calls, and we are very thankful to our principals who have made all those calls at the request of their superintendent. And they have found ways to open up the lines of communication. And as I stated, the grades are improving or have improved.
So the administrators have been able to make,
they
at least make an
contacted all the
effort of
parents.
contact with every family that
Yes.
failed?
We
Yes.
did extend the
Had a failing grade?
timeline. Originally, sorry to interrupt, originally we did ask that those calls be made by Thanksgiving, but the volume, I mean, if you remember, I think the high school alone had like 800 failures. And the numbers were really, really high. And what we're learning is that those phone calls are not 5-minute calls. They're 45 minutes. I mean, parents are grateful for the call, but they really want to speak to the administrator. So there are still a few schools that are finishing, but they have reached the majority of the students at this point.
And then are administrators such as principals talking to families of children who have IEPs, or what's happening with
It's a
that?
combination. We're using a combination of school administrators, as in principals, vice principals, and supervisors of special services.
Okay, so then a parent of a student with an IEP would be receiving a call to be discussing this, because a student who has an IEP still is in a general education setting, and they still have a right to an administrator, guidance, all of that, but then they also have the other layer. So
Yeah,
then
in
that
most
way.
cases, those families have gotten 2 calls. They've gotten a call from the building principal or vice principal, as well as a supervisor.
Perfect, thank you.
Have you, in those calls, have you learned anything kind of globally that these families are struggling with that we can address in some way? I mean, have there been any learnings that we can leverage to come up with help for our families?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, Jen. I mean, unfortunately, I think the only way to solve it is to get the kids back in school. Unfortunately, the things that they're reporting to us are, they're sad. And I know Chuck has a list. It's everything from, the inability to motivate children, the inability to get them on Zooms, the inability to wake them up or get them engaged. What are some of the other things?
At the high school, lack of motivation, organization, and structure that the parents were worried about. So we shared with them the virtual learning plan, so the parents and guardians, and we reset their Genesis and Schoology parent portals and showed them how to get in. Certain students, of course, are depressed, so they started counseling with the folks and informed the trauma-informed coordinator. And some of the conversations with parents and guardians led to academic conferences with the students who were still not passing, and the administration and counselors and case managers were in on the phone calls. That's for the high school. At Glen Meadow, they said rule out the issues with technology. That was not a concern. Some were worried about motivation. Some were worried about organization, organizing schedules. Many people want in-person instruction. They want the kids back in school.
So I just need to point out, and we keep saying that about the in-person instruction, but even if we get kids back in school, they're not going to be in school all the time. We were already experiencing this before we closed, right? So let's just remember this first marketing period was almost, I think it was over, right? When we were still doing hybrid. So yeah, we want to get these kids back in school 5 days a week, but that's not going to happen soon. So we have to come up with some other ways to help. I mean, I know we can't make it as good. I know we can't even get maybe halfway, but we need to do something now. We can't wait. We can't keep saying, oh, the only way to fix this is something we can't do. Oh, well, that's not going to cut it for the next few months,
There has been
few weeks even.
Jen, there has been some conversation through our listening sessions and with our follow-up conversations with administration on what those supportive services look like. I'm not prepared to speak to those this evening because they have not been formally vetted. But teachers have come up with some great suggestions, and they're very worried. I think equally as worried. The data that Chuck is sharing with you this evening was shared from the administrators back to the teachers. So I think the teachers are starting to understand what's happening and the disconnection, and that's really important. And you're right, now we have to find a better way to connect.
So in Glen Meadow, the SCIP met, and they've been
Right.
evaluating student workload to cut down on screen time. They focused on lessons that get key concepts and main ideas. They're pulling back on content. You can't do everything. They're developing school-wide organization system. Students not earning lower than a 55 on an assignment, and they're developing a mentor system for most struggling students. Teacher may have 5 students that they monitor or work with.
How are you how are you ensuring that these efforts are being applied across the board so that it's equitable to any student regardless of what classroom they're in?
Well, that's what we've basically given the responsibility to the administrators that are running that building to set up their skips and make sure that that message gets out. The traditional.
It was generated though, Mr. Annunziata, with the first exercise, right, which was calling the parents of the children who failed. We recognize, I think, as a board and as central office that those children struggled the most, perhaps the evidence shows, because they felt those classes. So I think the preliminary things that Dr. McKay has read are things that we can replicate in other schools, and we have to continue to identify the needs of the children so that we can apply some of these strategies. And different things may look differently across the board. I mean, the things you heard at Glen Meadow had to do with mentoring. The key concepts piece, I agree with, kind of K-12. Well, anyway, K-8 for sure. I mean, I don't think that, and I've said this at our listening sessions, I've said to the faculties in the buildings that it's not a regular year. So thinking you can teach your full curriculum from last year is just not possible. And that, you know, we might want to look at key concepts and teaching certain things that students are, I mean, look, they're required to learn everything. I think what the problem is that the teachers are probably nervous. From what they know, there's going to be state testing at the end of the year.
Well, that's what the state has told us.
Yes, the state told us that. So I think, you know, they're not sure what to pull off the table, right? So we have to continue to work with them through curriculum articulation and decide what are the key concepts in certain content areas at each developmental level, and make sure the children are getting what they need, but not to overwhelm the children. And you're hearing that from parents tonight, right? That the kids feel overwhelmed. I get it.
We received an enormous amount of emails about that.
But,
The odd piece though is when you look at the high school schedule, there's in between each class, there's no like little break like you would, I mean, if you were in person, you would be walking down the hallway, what have you. Why is there no, you know, a couple of minutes to get yourself situated, find your Zoom and what have you? Like, why is it one right after the other in the high school? I thought that was odd.
I don't.
Yeah, the students
I'd
go
have to
for
ask.
2 hours and 8 minutes without a single break. So the first class goes 9 o'clock to 9:32, and then period 2 goes 9:32 to, what is it, 10:04?
Yeah.
So there's no break. So for 2 hours and 8 minutes, they have to go straight. Then they have a 40-minute lunch, but the 40-minute lunch may not be lunch. That's when they can go get extra help or, you know, meet whoever they have to meet. And then the afternoon is again, no breaks, 2 hours and 8 minutes without any break. And the students, originally, there was really not much leeway. Now there's a 2-minute leeway to be late, but there's no
But
break between anything.
how do you get yourself organized enough to flip from one class, quick get over to the other? Like, I know that when I'm looking for a Zoom link, if it's not right there, it takes you a little bit to find that link and log in. I just don't understand why we don't have, because normally you'd have, what, 4 minutes to get to your class? Why don't we have that 4 minutes built in?
What I have found is most of the teachers are waiting and are giving the children breaks and allowing them to eat if they have to. Now, I can't speak for every teacher, but I will say from what I've witnessed on the lessons I've been in on, the teachers are being as flexible as possible. Now, I don't.
Sorry.
So then we should let the public know and let this be a record that if that student can't get there within 2 minutes, it's still okay. You'll be able to log on and you're not.
No, we cannot say that because that is just not true. The kids get locked out of class. I know it's not true. We can't say it because it's just not true. The kids get locked out of class. I had 3 parents text me today about this.
That's what Dr.
Okay,
McKay
so
just said, Jen.
what I will say
I
is,
know, but
I will go back to the skip committee at the high school, and I will try to work that into the schedule.
I mean,
I just think that would be helpful.
It would be
you know?
helpful for the
Oh, yeah.
teachers too, I
Oh,
would
yeah,
imagine,
like,
right?
I-
Everybody, yeah.
I think that our
everybody.
teachers are incredibly hardworking and have been very adaptive in a very unique circumstance and trying circumstance. But it shouldn't be most. It should be all.
You got it.
Every student, and this is just, it's up to the administration to implement this if this is what they see fit, but this is my opinion as one board member. Every student should have a fairly equitable experience. And if a student is 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 8 minutes late for a Zoom, the fact that they are there, that they're trying to show up, that they're trying to learn, no student should be locked out of a class. If a kid doesn't show up to class within 5 minutes in a school building, we don't lock them out of the room.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, so that's been one of my frustrations since the beginning of the school year, because that's something that only happens with virtual. I have to just say on the behalf of the teacher though, I think what happens is they start teaching and then they can't be looking at the waiting room to see who's out there, and they need to have their classroom be secure because you don't want to be, Zoom bombed or whatever the word is. So there is a reason it's happening, but I don't know, I don't want to suggest that teachers are locking kids out to be mean. It's happening for a reason. It's just that it is happening. We can't say it's not. So, it would be great if we can figure out a solution to put a little buffer time in there, but I don't want people to walk away thinking that I'm saying teachers are purposely locking kids out. It's just that it's like so many things with this, it's situational.
It wouldn't be difficult to build in 5-minute breaks between each period, right?
I think that you should just make that in the schedule.
Right.
So why can't we add that to the schedule and just have that 5 minutes where you're transferring from one class to the other? I think that's in a normal situation, that's the way it is. I don't know how a student could ever navigate within 2 minutes to get to that link.
Oh, and then 2 minutes are late.
Yes, absolutely.
Take care of
Sent
that.
the
I
email
just
to Pauline.
emailed Dr. Hank.
Yeah, and Jen, thank you for, I just want to, before we move off this, I just want to thank Jen for clarifying that, because I'm not trying to say that all of our teachers are intentionally locking kids out. I'm sure mistakes happen, but if that were the case, that would be very troubling to hear.
Just a technical question. So if you have to be on a Zoom in each class, is there a calendar that the student has that could be like on, on the side of their portal that would have the link already there, so they wouldn't have to go try to find an email? It would just connect them right there.
So, well, yes and no. I asked Mr. Shea this question because another board member brought it up to me. So there's two different things. On Schoology, there is a little calendar icon, but that shows like your upcoming assignments and those kind of things. However, I don't think there's the ability to put the Zoom link onto the Schoology calendar, or maybe there is, but it's an added step. Is that correct, Mr. Shea? So the calendar can have the Schoology icon. It's an added step. And I'm not saying that we're not doing added steps. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But at this point, I do think that most kids know where to find their links. So I think to change that process now would be a really bad idea.
Oh, because a lot of the emails that we get say that they're searching for links all the time. So,
well, I mean, I have to be honest and look from the parent perspective. I mean, as soon as you log on to Schoology, almost every teacher, it goes in a feed, just like a social media feed, like a Facebook feed. And then teachers are also, in general, posting it on their page under updates. And some of them even have it in another place. So they're already posting it in at least 2 places in general.
Yeah.
I'm not saying every teacher in the district. And I would encourage those families perhaps that you're hearing from, if they're feeling like they can't find the links, let us know who they are. Or maybe they can reach out to
I just think if we could streamline
How did it go when those folks reached out to the principal? The principal could have a direct line to the teachers saying,
right.
And the principal, they can look into Schoology, like they have wireless access. They can do a walkthrough on Schoology just like we would do live. So a principal could look and say, yeah, Karen Davino, you don't have any links posted, and they could really easily rectify that. So if parents are not seeing links, please let us know. I do think it's a small number, Kelly. I have to be honest.
Oh no,
I think the links are always there. I know, I mean, all year, I've been getting up and looking for links. So they're always there. But like Kelly pointed out, when you're a kid and you've got 2 minutes and the clock's ticking, and depending on the kid, some kids are doing fine with this. Like, it really depends on how organized, you know, the organizational skills and everything, but they are there. It's not that they're not there. One thing that would help though, I don't know why some of the teachers are doing this and some aren't, and there's probably a reason that I just don't know about, but some of them have a different link every day, and some of them have the same link. It's like a standing link. And so if you're a kid and you have a standing link for everything, then you just go bop, 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 bop every day, right? That's not so hard. But the ones that are changing the link every day, you've got to find the new link. And, you know, there's incidents where kids go to yesterday's link because they just don't look down or scroll the wrong way or whatever. I don't know. But so I don't know if that's something that, if there's some reason that they want the unique links each day, but if they could think that if we could suggest that if possible, there's a standing link, I don't know, maybe that would make kids, you know, then you could have your schedule on your computer and you just click, 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 click down your day, right?
No, that's a good suggestion, Jen. I'm not going to assume what the challenges are, but remember with technology, it's like a continuum, right? I mean, we have different learning levels and learning curves for everybody in the district, including myself, including our faculty. Some of them may not know how to keep a standing link. I'm not sure. So we'll make sure that we circle back and provide some additional support for them, but it's a good suggestion. So thank you.
And I just want to make it clear that the reason why I asked for us to explore the pass-fail is because I just wanted to reach the students that are just shutting down. And what do we do for those students that are just shutting down? They're saying like, well, I'm going to fail anyway, so that's it. I'm just going to shut down. That was the reason why I asked about the pass-fail. Not to, think that I knew more than the educators. Of course, I take what they say to heart, and if they feel that it's not a good idea, then of course I wouldn't recommend that. It's just that, what do we do when a parent says, my child is just shutting down? They feel that they're going to fail, and they're just saying, well, then why even bother? I just want to reach those students and give an olive branch to those students and say, come on in. Like that's.
I think the
I think that goes
55,
to what Mark said.
and the 55
where
is.
I think you got to change your philosophy a little bit with grading to more of a participation and attendance than it is a project or an exam.
We had a meeting with the CPAC, and the president of the CPAC said, when I started asking questions of the parents, and the parents were giving feedback about what was going on in their lives, it was like they came alive because they felt like they haven't spoken to other parents in a long time, and they felt like part of a connection. I mean, maybe that's the answer, is that we have parent groups that can get together and help each other on that, the child shutdown piece.
I do think, though, the combination of a 55, so the floor isn't as low as it was, right? Plus, if we can put more emphasis on participation and effort, I think that should keep every kid in the game, right? Should keep every student in.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, in colleges, they give you a grade, 10% of your grade is participation.
Right.
So maybe if we could bump that.
Yeah,
up.
I'm sure many of our teachers are already doing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
It's just a
standard.
matter of how are we making sure that we're reaching every student?
Well, the phone calls from the principals, I mean, they really, and the assistant principals were amazing.
Well, my question is, how do we measure this? What are the metrics we're using? Because we don't want it to be the next measurement being second marking period grades, right? Because then we're halfway through the year with two bad marking periods. So what are we using, I guess, week to week to say, hey, we're trending the right way?
Right. I think, I don't have week-to-week grades. That's an impossibility because of the way grades are
There's
loaded
the
in by
midterm,
teachers.
the
et cetera.
mid-marking period.
The what?
Mid-marking period.
Mid-marking period, we'll know where they are.
So we don't go through the whole
Attendance,
marking
maybe?
period.
Progress-wise,
Attendance
we have
in the-
attendance, yes. Attendance is a data point that we can use.
Have we
I
seen
really
that go?
think-
Have we seen attendance go up since the reach out has happened, or?
Yeah, there's been a reset of their passwords, a reset of, in other words, we're starting anew, if you will, and the principals have been responsible for that, for the students who had,
And some of the home visits have been successful too.
there have been home visits, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Yeah, so we'll see. Attendance probably would be the only data point that we can use at this point until mid-March.
It'd be great to get some, I guess,
Where we are. Yeah.
leading indicators that, hey, we're heading the right direction before it's,
Yeah.
the grade's a lagger, right? It's already happened.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring up one other thing. We've been talking a lot about the importance of in-person, and we're also talking about our student body. We have a community of special needs kids who, I mean, I know some districts are opening for their IEP students or special, Teresa would know more about this kind of thing, I'm sure, but, for those students who really need in-person, they have figured out ways to do that safely. Is that something that we could or should be exploring?
Do you want to mention that we had a discussion about this?
Yeah, it actually started at, I think it was on the agenda for the CPAC meeting, but I certainly don't want to misquote that meeting. But we had a follow-up conversation based on that. It was brought up at the CPAC meeting. I think part of the challenge that we're looking at now, Jen, is that in the fall, when we had a hybrid schedule, we did have all of our self-contained programs in. So those were like LLD, ABA, BD, and life skills. When I mean 4 days a week, remember, because Wednesday was virtual Wednesday, right? So it was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. The reason why that was successful was that even though those are self-contained, there's a lot of integration with our regular population. So for example, at the high school, the life skills program is a life skills program. Their electives are not self-contained. Their electives are with the general education students, as well as even our BD program down at Rolling Hill School. They are with the general ed student population for a period here, a period there, depending on the children's IEPs. So we have been talking about how to do that. Part of the challenge is that those children could be in school, but they'd still have to do certain things virtually while they're in school, and then they wouldn't be integrated with the general education population. So that's a challenge. We are trying to find ways to do that. It came up very recently. So it came up, I guess, at the CPAC meeting. We actually talked about it just yesterday. I have in my notes that Chuck and I talked about it along with the special ed supervisors to try to figure out how we do that. So we are trying to figure it out.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, I just want to build on that. So just so I understand, the self-contained classes would have difficulty, and this may not be a possibility because they won't have inclusion with the general education as self-contained classes. I'm not understanding.
When we ran the hybrid model, our programs that are self-contained are still integrated in some parts of their program with general education students. For example, life skills at the high school has their electives outside of the life skills classroom.
Right.
So my point is that if we're all virtual now, they could have their life skills program, right, the components of the self-contained program, but their elective teachers are still virtual. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right. So I understand what you're saying, but I guess I'm looking at it from a different angle, that if they are self-contained and being predominantly educated in a self-contained setting and going to electives in a general education setting, then why can't they have their self-contained setting? I mean, I don't want an answer right now. We can discuss this next week. But if they're in a self-contained program, that if it's a possibility to provide, face-to-face, and then make some sort of accommodations for the general education virtual learning of some sort. But that's definitely something we can discuss next week when, it's at the public meeting.
Right.
Thanks.
Yeah, so that's what I said. I mean, right now, we talked about it yesterday. I don't have an answer to that, but we'll add it to the items, I think, for next week. right?
Mhm.
Under M1E. And that would be bringing back
Special.
special ed.
Yep.
Anything else on that?
I would just be
Yes, I have something. Chuck, the initiatives that you've implemented to work on bringing the grades back up, is this a result of a deep dive that you guys have accomplished?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how deep to dive. It's just the fact that every person was contacted by the administration, and then we met and we asked the administration basically to tell us what they were hearing, and we're starting to develop at least what we think are viable connections for our families and for our students who are struggling. And it also showed how committed our district is to this by making those phone calls. And again, kudos to our building administrators doing this, then reporting out, and then working with their skips about things that we can do to improve the educational process.
And when is the second market period over?
Just as we're returning, it'll be the January 19th date.
Middle of January, okay. And so then maybe in February, could we have some sort of report on how the grades?
Yes.
Okay.
Anecdotally, we're hearing from the folks who know that the grades are improving. Now, of course, it all depends on how the marking period goes and whether projects are being done. It all depends on what grade level we're talking about as well.
Thank you.
You got it.
Mr. Sparta?
I would just be cautious at looking at bringing one segment of the population back and not having everyone. And
right.
If people recall back in July and August, I actually was a proponent of bringing special needs kids back into the district 5 days a week for services and so on and so forth. But to use the term of for those kids that need to be in school, then what you leave the door open for are general education parents saying, my kid needs to be in school also. So I would just be very cautious of moving forward with that.
Thank you.
Building on what Joe said, with the second marking period grades, how's the research going on the failures for the first marking period grade? Has there been any development?
What do you mean? That's
Well,
what we were.
Yeah, that's what I was, for the second marking period.
For the first marking period?
Yeah, like remember we were going to look into, so I'm just wondering if there's been any update.
That's what Chuck said.
Yeah, Jen Sherrill's doing what Joe calls a deep dive. I wanted to know where the students were failing, like which classes they were, et cetera. So Jen Sherrill is working on that report right now. Jen does the data for us. And we'll take a look at that just to see if it's core courses, whether it's electives, just to get a sense of where it is, particularly at the high school level.
Will we get a copy of that?
Well, I haven't done it yet, but
when you get it, I mean.
And maybe a comparison of students that failed this marking period and how did they do first marking period of last year?
Right.
You know, is it
Right.
a brand new struggle
that was
for
the
them?
comparison I
Okay.
gave you last time without using student
without
names
using
and
student,
without talking about what classes they were
But I
in.
think
So
it's also
it
important.
was raw data.
I think it's also important to recognize how many students have 4 Fs, how many have 3 Fs, how many have 2, how many
Yeah, how many
one.
have one? Yeah. We just have the total number of Fs, but not how
Right,
many
right.
students that represented.
Right.
Okay. If there's nothing else on the grading, we'll move on to item 3, which is AP testing.
So, boy, I mean, I hate to bring this up. We've talked about AP testing for the last 3 years, and I've only been here for 2, but challenge we're running into is that even though AP testing doesn't happen until the spring, registration and payment for AP testing is due soon. I think before January 1st, but don't quote me on that. I could be February, but it's due definitely within the next 6 weeks or so. My worry is that due to the economic struggles that our families are having, that if students and families are not able to pay for AP testing, it could really hurt them as far as college admissions process goes. It makes me think about who we are as a district, like who are we? Do we support, our families when they need us to? Or do we keep the onus on the students? So just wanted to bring it up for discussion.
I know the
Why are you
board
looking
knows.
at me?
I mean, the board knows where I stand on this. I have been on the losing end of this vote in the past. So I have a hard time advocating that we overturn that. I don't know that I'm going to advocate for that because the board did approve a budget with a specific intent in the spring, and that was not included in it, even though I wanted that to be included in the budget. If other board members want to advocate otherwise, they can, but I know I've lost that battle in the spring.
Don't those parents always have the opportunity to apply for free and reduced lunch, and then with free and reduced lunch,
We are
then
paying
AP
for
is
those.
covered,
Yep.
correct?
I don't know that the payment of free and reduced lunch necessarily absolves them of a payment on an AP test.
No,
I
we
don't
said
know.
we pay for it.
It only pays a certain
It pays a
piece of that,
portion.
and we pay the rest. Yeah.
We said, and the board did agree. If-
We
if-
agreed-
We
we agreed to
agreed
that.
if students qualified for free and reduced
Yes.
lunch,
Right.
Then we would pay.
then we would pay. However, now you're probably not getting any new applications
No.
since
No,
the
'cause
federal
everybody's
government decided
considered.
everybody qualifies for
Right.
free. So that really hurts those
Oh.
who truly qualify.
Right.
We did have a very diminished application.
Because why apply when you don't have to? So that's
Right.
an unintended consequence
I
of
think
giving
it-
people
Yeah.
lunch and breakfast.
I think we should make an effort to communicate to families to make them aware of the fact that if they do qualify for free or reduced lunch, that there are subsidies for AP testing.
And they should still apply.
And that if your circumstances change, you can apply for the program at any time.
And
That's
free
a
and
good
reduced
point.
lunch affects our state aid.
Yes, it
on
does.
top
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Yes, it does.
So that's something
Right.
we should be encouraging people to apply for. I understand that some people are embarrassed to do so, but it is a confidential process that is only seen by the
Mhm.
administrators in the school. We don't see it as a board. It's not public information. And they
No.
should be encouraged to apply for it.
No one sees that.
No one sees it.
Unfortunately,
Right, it's
though,
private.
because of what the federal government did with school lunches and breakfasts, how else,
Yeah,
how
but
are
they
you
can
going to
still
encourage?
apply, and if they.
I know but there's not going to be that motivation because you're
There's
you're already
gonna be
getting it.
motivation if somebody wants to take an AP
Well,
test, and they're
the
gonna
well,
get
for
paid
that
for it.
handful, yeah, for that small segment of high school students only, not for your elementary school or middle school students.
But they're
Well, we
not
can
taking
encourage
AP,
that.
and we're talking about AP
Right, we're
right
talking
now.
about AP right now. So what I'd like to see is if we could just send out like a little bulletin letting everybody know that, we are willing to pay the AP testing if they go ahead and qualify for that program. So they should at least apply.
Just for the record, like I said, I always have supported funding AP testing. I think it makes our school district more equitable, but I understand that it was not allocated for in this year's budget. So I'll respect the majority of the board's decision on that.
I can have Russ get that out.
I would support that, just so you know, Justin, next time.
Thank you.
So, number 4, shall I
Yes.
continue? Okay. Number 4 is grants update per district goals 3.3A. I believe there's a document at your seats that Chuck distributed.
The document that I gave you establishes that we're going for grants that we've just applied for. We applied for the school security grant. We'll get notification on that on December 17th. We're looking for a $166,000 award, and that would be for the purchase of cameras, shatter-resistant film for doors, new door locks, etc. This grant was offered by the state. And we have filled out all the documentation that needed to be done. I want to thank everybody for their help with that. Robin Homestead is our grant writer, but also I was in on that, and also Scott Wallach. I wanted to thank him for his effort with that, and Donna. And then the water filtration grant does not have a monetary cap. We're asking for a refund of the money spent to rectify the 2017 lead water testing and all that we did. So the amount that we're requesting is $100,000. That would be found money for this district because we've already spent that money. The deadline for that was December 4th. Hopefully it will be announced soon, and we'll hear on that as well. Perkins 5, traditionally, before we had the CTE programs, we would receive approximately $14,000, which I've told our folks before. The comprehensive local needs assessment this year, because Perkins 5 is very different than the last Perkins iteration, we will be receiving $100,894. And then the Title I grants through Title IV grants were submitted. And then the College and Career Pathways grant that we won 5 years ago is in his last year. And $100,000 this year went towards our hospitality and allied health program. We've actually developed what looks like almost a medical emergency room in one of the rooms at the high school. The grant that we're going for in the next couple of weeks that we're working on presently is addressing student learning loss grant by the state of New Jersey. They've established a 17-month grant program to support projects that implement evidence-based interventions or quality instruction strategies to address student learning loss through additional mathematics and/or English language literacy instruction. Also for social and emotional learning. This is right in our ballpark. So we're putting every effort into this, and the total amount that we could win, the award would be $156,000. So that's where we are with the grants, and with the board goals, we promised to report out in December on that.
That was very helpful. Are you optimistic about us being refunded for the water filtration system?
I am.
You are?
But we'll see. I can't promise. But everything that we did.
Does it say it can be retroactive?
Yes.
Okay.
From 2016 on, because it's trying to address all that happened.
Yeah. We were mitigating our water systems before it was cool. So. Hopefully. Okay. Item 5.
It is recommended that the board approve Ms. Teresa Linsky as the School Business Administrator Board Secretary effective February 11th, 2021 through June 30th, 2021 with an annual salary $170,000 per year prorated.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 5?
So moved.
Mr. Sparta, second.
Second, Coughlin.
Ms. Coughlin, questions or comments?
The effective date, why is it just the February to June?
School business administrator contracts are only offered annually, and they have to run with the school year for a 12-month employee, which is July 1 through June 30. So this is essentially a half-year contract, and then certainly would expect to reappoint her on July 1 of 2021 through 2022.
Okay.
So and I'm sorry.
We always did this with Steve, I guess? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was here for a long time. The other piece, I'm sorry, Kelly, I might have missed the first part. February 11th, as that tonight is the 10th. Therefore, Ms. Linsky tomorrow would resign from her current district. She has to give 60 days notice, which brings us to February 11th.
Okay, I just wanted to be able to understand that part of it. Because it
wanna-
looks like we're only hiring her for a couple of months and then.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, Mr. Peak identified that it is recommendation 1, not 5. There's a subheading on page 2 at the bottom for recommendations. So it's recommendation 1. You know, a concern was brought up regarding the salary being offered for this position. I can speak to it in a limited capacity without going into too much detail about individual interview processes or anything that's confidential to an individual public employee. I'm confident that the salary represents the skill set that is being brought on by this individual. I believe that this individual will be the right person to fill the need of the district to manage a very difficult financial circumstance in the next few budget cycles. I believe that it is above the county average. I don't know that it's above the county average by 36% for K through 12 districts.
Right,
I think
that's
we'd
the
have to
difference.
really make sure we separate out K8 and K12. I'm sure it's still above the average, but perhaps by not so wide a margin. There's a very significant difference in the workload associated with a K8 and a K12 district of our size. So a more accurate or fair comparison may be to the K-12s in our county, but I recognize that it is on the high end. I believe it's reflective of the skill set that we are bringing onto the district. Any other board members have questions or comments?
Yeah, I mean, I've expressed to Kelly over the last week or so, there's no way I was going to support this. When we have teachers retire, we always get breakage. And I was kind of hoping the same thing here. I think part of the problem that we have is we're bringing this person in at a very high rate, and they're going to get raise after raise after raise after raise after raise, and they're going to be, in no time making, a good chunk of change, which they already are when they're coming in. Mr. O'Donnell brought up that she was only making 140 something at the other school, but yet we were told something different in an email.
No, and I'm not sure where Mr. O'Donnell received that information from. The user-friendly budget, she was making 158. For 21-22, she'd be making 163. So she does have, in the user-friendly budget, will only report the base, will not report any additional stipends or bonuses. So it was a 155 plus a $3,000 stipend or bonus, however that's written in
What additional stipend or bonuses are they?
I don't have her current contract.
But as a BA, the only thing I know of, superintendents can get merit-based bonuses, but I don't believe it goes beyond the superintendent level.
That would be the agreement between the current board and that business administrator. I can't speak to whether it's correct or not, Brad. I understand what you're saying. What I can say is that, I mean, some of the other comments that Mr. Annunziata reflected are accurate. I mean, Lenape Valley has 675 students, and that business administrator in 1920 was at 160 and is now at about 165. Jefferson's a K-12. That person only has 1 year experience at 160. The larger districts like the Pompton Lakes K-12, they're at 175. Most of the districts, and I don't want to say most, but many of the districts in Sussex County at K-8s, K-6s, they're in the 120s and 130s. So Martin's analysis is not incorrect. When you look at Sussex County, the K-8s and K-6s, of course, usually yield a less annual salary just based on the responsibilities of the job.
But that's not apples to apples because we're a
No.
K-12.
Right. We're a K-12, and there are only a few in the county.
And I understand that we are in a very significant budget challenge. We are asking the person to take this on, to take on a massive endeavor over the next few years as well.
So can I just clarify, Karen, you said the user-friendly budget is where you got the data for her current salary, and that's at 168?
No, the user-friendly budget, which is where perhaps Martin might have looked, because that's the user-friendly budget, has to be on each district's website. And that usually it will report the base salary. It may report stipends or it may not. I've seen some districts not put it on their website at all, even though it's required. It will even include the cost of contract. I don't know what was on the website. I do know that in her current contract, she was at 155 plus 3,000, 158 for her salary for 1920. For next year, she was going to make 163 because she was already indicated what the percentage increase would be for 21-22.
For 21-22, she was going to make 163.
Right.
And the ideas that she brought forward in the process, made us feel that she was going to save us a significant amount of money with her knowledge base and her skill set. So that's another reason why we felt that this was appropriate.
We're also looking at a reduction in health benefits cost.
We shouldn't go into that.
Okay.
So I do feel that her skill set
Battery died.
warrants it.
What?
I'm sorry.
Hey, Matt, the battery on this died, so for public comments, I'll need, thank you.
Karen, the recommendation doesn't include discussion with her about the next raise or the lack of a next raise.
I believe that was in my memo to the board, but I don't remember now.
It was.
Yeah, so this salary is effective even though it's not, we haven't approved it yet, but the candidate that I'm recommending has agreed that for the 21-22 school year, that she would not be asking for additional compensation because she's only going to be with us for 6 months. Therefore, it really wouldn't be appropriate to.
Of course not. She's front loading a raise from the school district she's coming from. I wouldn't request one either.
And that would
I
be
mean,
up to
that's
us
just-
anyway, so I mean, like that really, neither here nor there.
So the salary that we're going to be approving is for 18 months,
Yes, essentially.
essentially. I was part of the interview committee. We interviewed a lot of people. I think the person we're hiring does indeed have a skill set and will save us a good deal of money.
You were on the committee, Joe?
Yes, I was.
I was on the committee as well.
Who else was on the committee?
Mark and Brad was originally, I sat in.
Yeah. And I don't want to speak for Mark, but he was very impressed by
But you
her
will
skill set.
anyway.
But I will anyway. I'll force myself.
I don't want to speak for
I don't want to, but I will.
I don't want to, but I'll force myself.
So is it appropriate to get a feedback from the committee during open session, or is that not appropriate, Justin?
We've already be done at that point in time.
It's appropriate.
I mean, I believe most of us have provided feedback already.
Yeah, except for Brad.
Brad
No,
was,
I didn't
No,
sit
I
in
ended
because I
up
was out
sitting
in
in.
Pittsburgh.
Oh, you didn't sit down?
No, I didn't
Okay.
sit in.
Okay, all right.
we invited him to the party and he decided not to attend.
Are there any other?
Actually, I was uninvited for the second part of the parties.
Are there any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Peak,
Yes.
Ms. Pellet,
Yes.
Mr. Sparta,
No,
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata,
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri,
Yes.
Mr. Chili's gone.
I'd like to thank
Thank
I'd like to thank the Board of Education for your support. I'd also like to congratulate Teresa Linsky. She is in the virtual meeting this evening. So I know that she could not be here live, but she is probably one of those little tiny icons that I can't see, but she is in the public tonight. So I'd just like to congratulate Teresa publicly. I look forward to working with you in February. Thank you to the board for your support.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody on the committee. I know you guys really worked hard on that, so it was a lot of effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Do you
Jen.
have a recommendation on the addendum?
Yes, we do.
I do. Thank you for reminding me. If I
You're
can
welcome.
find my
Yeah, we just
addendum.
voted on it.
It's recommended the board approve the
Board chart.
2021 organization chart.
Thank you. On the addendum, it's recommended that the board approve the 2021 organizational chart as noted.
Can we have a motion for recommendation G2?
so moved. Second.
Mr. Peak, second by Mr. Sparta. Questions or comments?
The only question I have is, how is this different from the existing one?
The change is that instead of Director of Special Services, it says Interim Director of Special Services, Joe.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there not a direction from the auditor to the school business administrator, just basically because we hire as a Board of Education, the auditor and the attorney? Because to me, it seems like the school business administrator should be there should be a connection between the auditor and the school business administrator.
Yeah, a line right there. Auditor does report to the Board of Education with the final findings.
How would you like
I
that
mean,
to be
I think it's,
reflected? Yeah,
I
I'm
think
not-
they need to be responsible to the Board of Education as a whole.
They do, but I also think the school business administrator needs to be responsible to the auditor as well for providing
Right,
docs and so on
right.
and so forth.
Mhm.
I mean, if you look at the org chart, and this is something I brought up before, it's nothing new. There's no connection from the auditor to the school district other than the Board of Education.
Right.
So would you like us to note that change,
It's up
Brad?
to, it's a board discussion.
Okay.
If it were me, yes, I'd make the change, but there's 9 members of the board.
I would make that change as well.
Other members of the board? We can make the change as noted. I just,
Yeah,
we need some.
do a verbal.
What is the noted change?
There needs to be a connection between the auditor and the school business administrator. And there's, on the org chart, do you have the org chart or no?
Yes, I do.
There's just, the auditor is just connected to the Board of Education. There's no connection with central office, and I think there needs to be a connection there.
So what are you proposing?
That there should be a line that goes from the auditor to the Board of Education and from the auditor to the interim school business administrator.
So because it's not a direct chain of command, but more of a relationship, would a dotted line be
Yeah,
appropriate?
that's fine.
So that we're just indicating that, there's a clear relationship
There's a
there,
relationship there, yep.
but it's not a chain of command.
Mhm.
Is everybody comfortable with that change?
Yes.
The dotted line. Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Good call, Brad.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay.
Okay, seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Dr. Peak,
Yes.
Ms. Pellet,
Yes.
Mr. Sparta,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata,
Yes.
Mrs. Buccieri,
Are we voting on the org chart?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I'd like to add a verbal recommendation based on the chart, that I have shown the board in executive session. It is recommended that the board approve the 2020-2021 5-day-a-week part-time aide schedule as listed in this attachment. And that will be effective 12/7/20, last month,
If appropriate, right? 5 days a week, if
if
appropriate.
appropriate.
No, that is not what we agreed upon. It was
But I
supposed to
have
be 5 days a week.
Yeah,
I
5
thought we
days
were
a
going
week.
to count the number of days for the rest of the school year.
No,
we
that's
said
talking about
5 days a
annualizing the
week.
salary. We're talking about a recommendation, I think, that's 5 days a
5
week
days a week.
based on the schedule that's
Mhm.
been distributed, the hours.
I have it documented right here that
Yep, 5 days a week.
we said 5 days per week, and
Yes.
it was going to be written on this addendum.
Yep.
So please do not put,
Can
If
you
appropriate.
restate the
Sure, it's recommended that the
top?
board approve the 2020-2021 5 days a week part-time aides as listed on this attachment, effective 12/7/20.
Okay, can we have a motion for recommendation G3? Move. Mr. Sparta, second.
Second, Coughlin.
Ms. Coughlin, questions or comments?
so we will get this in writing that clarifies that it's definitely 5 days a week.
It'll be
correct?
reflected in the board minutes, and then we will approve the minutes. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Annunziata,
Yes.
Mrs. Buccieri,
Yes.
Mr. Chili, Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Peak,
Yes.
Mrs. Pellet,
Yes.
Mr. Sparta,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Abstain.
Thank you. Okay, item H.
May I just say, I thank you very much. Tomorrow morning, the aides will receive this email from me. Good morning. At last evening's BOE meeting approval was given for 8 positions effective December 7th, 2020. You'll be receiving a separate email today sharing your individual contract. Please print, sign, and return a copy of the contract within 7 calendar days. So I thank you.
I want it noted that we are extremely grateful to our aides for their patience and for all they do.
Thank you. Item H, the Business Administrator Board Secretary's report.
Yeah, items 1 through 3 are your standard monthly reports. Are there any questions or comments on those
Yeah.
3?
Yeah, on the employment report, can we please put the aides in the part-time category so we have an accurate picture of what we have employee-wise?
Brad, could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, from September 1st, 2020 to today, there's no aides listed underneath the part-time category.
Okay, you're right.
So it throws off all the numbers, even to the full-time equivalents underneath
Okay. That was on the attachment, right?
on attachment
Or not on the
WS1.
attachment? Okay, thank you.
And then on the enrollment report, I just want to take note that from last year to this year, we're down 96 kids.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was the last thing you said, Brent?
We are down 96 kids from last year to this year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. I didn't hear what you said.
Anything else?
No, not for me.
Okay, item number 4 in your packets, you received the NJEA Frederick L. Hip Foundation for Excellence in Education grant package that was submitted for a meditation garden at the high school and then amended for a meditation garden, sensory garden at the high school and a outdoor classroom garden at the middle school. We're basically asking for approval on this grant. There's no cost involved to the board, but just approval for insurance purposes because there will be volunteers on our premises and there will be permanent structures, some permanent structures being installed on our property. This will be on the December 17th meeting for approval, formal approval. Are there any questions?
Who's the lead person on this project?
This is Lisa Herkler.
Lisa Herkler.
Oh, okay. This is amazing.
It's beautiful,
I mean,
right?
it's just, oh my gosh, it just
There's a lot of work on
like tugs at your heart, right?
Yes.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So please thank her.
All
for us.
credit
We
to
will.
Mrs. Herkler.
Yes, she did a
Yes,
great
please,
job.
please thank her for us because this is amazing.
Mhm.
And you have before and after pictures in here too.
Ah,
So you
I
can see
just-
what it looks like now and what it can look like.
I know, I want to go there right now. I just love it.
I'd rather go home and go to bed, but that's
Okay,
fine if you
well,
want to.
I'm very excited about it. We will be taking a tour through it when it's done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 5, we've already discussed. Item number 6, I was asked to look into the possibility of paying our pandemic response team out of the CARES grant. And I did some research and the CARES grant, there really is no money left in that one because that money was assigned back in August. But we do have money in the CRF grant, which is a grant that runs for 2 or 3 years. So there is some money. Currently, we paid $41,000 to the pandemic response employees. So we can do a disbursement adjustment and put that against the grant if that's your favor.
Well, back in August, when we discussed the pandemic response team, I think it was, I don't know if it was widely considered or not, but it was talked about that if we went back to school and we were only going to be in school 2 weeks and we were going to have to go virtual, what were going to happen to these people? And we were told at that time that they would not be working. So we're in the same situation just 3 months later. And I wondered why the whole reason why these people were there were to clean high-touch surfaces. There's no kids in school that are just high-touch surfaces. So why Why are they working? Why are they getting paid?
We did touch on that in buildings and
Yeah,
grounds.
do you
It was-
want to talk about that, or Donna?
Yeah.
Kelly?
Kelly.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we did speak to that in the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and there was a very long list of projects that needed to be done. And it was the recommendation that it was advantageous to have the pandemic response people.
So our custodians now aren't cleaning any rooms because there's no kids in school, so why can't they do the projects?
There were enormous projects. There were painting projects. Maybe Donna can speak to that.
There's also, I think, replacements of ceiling tiles. There's the changing out of the filters in the vents.
The lighting.
But these things would have had to been done anyway with our
Changing of light
custodial
bulbs.
staff, right?
What was that, Natalie? I'm
Those
sorry.
projects would have had to have been done by our custodial staff. And that,
Right, but in this gift of time, we could get, instead of just this much done by our custodial staff, we're getting this much done.
but we only,
There are also teachers in the buildings.
Right.
but we only approved those I mean, those salaries for that specific job.
But think about it, we're going to need those people in January. So if, let's say.
If we open in January.
If you open.
If we open in January.
I
I'm not a
your
proponent
concern.
of paying, of just finding things
And
for
as
someone
I
to
said back in
do.
July and August, this happens in this district all the time.
I think it
We
happens in
bring these
government.
people in, and I think I even said it in the July or August meeting, that lo and behold, we'll find something for them to
Yes.
do and we'll keep them. And
I-
next thing you know, these people will be here 3-4 years.
I'm not a proponent of that. We hired them for a specific job description on a temporary basis when the cleanings of high-touch surfaces were needed. And now we're finding work. And I in a time where, we have this budget crisis, I can't support that.
Well, I think you all need to see the list as well. Like, so maybe we can.
I don't
circle
disagree
back.
with the list. Yeah, I agree.
I can
I don't
make I can
disagree.
make a list of 1,000 things that are gonna get done.
I just think,
I mean-
but we hired them for a specific reason.
No, I understand
And
what you're saying.
they were hired as temporary employees for that reason. We even put that in the recommendation.
Yes.
You
Temporary
voted no
employees.
until we had a job description, Kelly.
No, I voted yes for.
No,
It was
well,
my idea
the
to have
first-
these people.
But the first week when we talked about it, there wasn't a job description and we had I think they came back with a job description and that's when you voted. In the beginning, we wanted a specific job description.
I don't remember that. I thought the concern was why we weren't hiring our typical aides and asking them if they wanted the job for it. Wasn't that the issue?
I think we did do that, but that's.
Yeah, in the end we did, but that was Kelly's idea or thought. I thought that was my name.
I misunderstood.
That was our idea, but I don't know that that's how it panned out. I don't know how Steve did that.
I guess my concern is that if we open the school district back up in a few weeks,
You have people that are trained to do this
And will we-
properly.
right,
Now-
and,
now
and
all
it's
of
a
sudden you're gonna
process
forego.
to hire somebody and have them go through the background checks and
Right.
the fingerprinting. And they haven't been with us long enough, I believe, to be able to qualify for unemployment insurance, right? So they're most likely going to find another job if they leave here. And then when we open up the school district in a few weeks, we'll have to start from scratch with hiring people.
I just feel that we're going to be able to have this gift of time, that we could get all these items done that we needed to get done. And still keep the employees in, like Justin had just said. I mean, it's only a couple of weeks.
No, it's
only
a
a
month and a
couple of
half.
No, it's 6 weeks, yeah.
The kids haven't been in school for 2 weeks.
We've been out of school since
For 2 weeks.
Thanksgiving.
Plus,
it's
we
already
do
been-
have
It's already been
staff
2
in the
weeks,
schools.
and it's going to be another 4 before they get in. So it's 6 weeks of pay at a rate of, how much was it, a month per person, multiplied by 15?
Well, they've earned 41,000 year to date. I don't think they were all on board till
They weren't all on board
sometime
because there
in
was a
October.
fingerprint
No,
process
yeah,
issue.
no,
and
that
everything
wasn't.
else.
Right?
But we're gonna have that.
Also, you have to do,
If you
you have to
open
do
up.
fingerprinting, you have to
We're
do.
gonna be here January 1st and
Listen,
it's
I
gonna
pray
be.
we open up, Kelly. I pray we
I
open
wanna
up.
open up too.
I want to
wanna
open up tomorrow.
It's, I mean, I would think that it's all of
Let's
our
open up to-
intention to open up, and I mean, you know.
But it was our intention to go 4 days, right?
But
It-
there was,
and then it
there was
changed.
guidance,
Yes,
I mean, and maybe.
The governor
Karen-
could shut us down.
No, I know, but Karen can speak to this. There was new guidance this week that said that we can, even if we go into a red zone, we can open our
The
schools.
schools in
The
Morris
schools
County
don't
never
have to be
even
closed
closed.
right now. There's
So we
schools that
could
are
be
still
open
open.
now.
We closed for whatever reason. That's a separate topic. We closed. No one told us to close. We closed.
Right.
Right?
I
The
did state in
superintendent is
November
saying that
why.
that
Yeah.
is her plan, right?
I know, and
Well,
I
to reopen.
appreciate your plan,
Yes.
Karen, but we both know the best laid plans.
Listen, nobody wants to be in school more than me.
Me
I
either.
followed the guidance of the Department of Health in November. I will have an update on this, by the way, next week for all of you regarding the reopening. But I don't want to speak anymore about the DOH at this point. I have to put it in a
I just think
report
if it was
to you.
our own budget, if you had your own budget, like, you know what, I'm gonna go on vacation for 2 months, but I have a cook and I have a maid. I'm gonna have them still come to my house and cook and clean while I'm gone. We're not there, right?
I
This is,
understand that, but think about the process.
this
of
is our
rehiring-
taxpayers' dollars
I
and we're
understand,
paying it.
But think about the process of rehiring people. What are you gonna do then? You're going to have that delay again with the
Well,
fingerprinting.
I don't think we'll open on a dime.
No, but it took us almost 2 months to fill
Yeah.
these positions.
Well-
I think operationally, I would have concerns about letting go of this class of employees with the expectation that they would be there, if and when we open, the second week of January. That's my concern. But I think that we need to have some sort of a consensus from the board. So I'd like to go around the board table to see where everybody stands, if they would like to maintain these employees to be utilized, how the central office is currently using them, or not during the next 5 weeks. So
I'm sorry, I'm still not clear on what are these projects what is this list of things that they're doing? Like,
I can email it to you right now.
thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry, Jen, that you don't have this information.
Ms. Reese, can you speak very briefly to what some of the projects are, the maintenance?
Yeah, I guess Daryl has been trying to change out all the lights in the gym because we were part of an ESIP program, and he needed to rent cherry picker, for a better word, whatever, to get up to the lights. And now that there's nobody in the gymnasium, he's taking advantage of that and completing that ESIP project. He's also doing a bunch of apparently in the last couple of years, when the budget submissions were made, there were all these building projects that the teachers wanted done, especially in Cedar Mountain. Cedar Mountain is putting in new partitions in their bathrooms. They're changing all the ceiling tiles in the cafeteria. They're looking for some painting. We're changing out the chairlift in Rolling Hills.
I think it was kick plates kick plates at the bottom of the
Yeah, I
doors
don't know
at
if
Cedar
we
Mountain as
agreed
well.
to do that though
Yeah.
at this point. Then there's painting in the high school. There's 10 classrooms there, and I think there's another 10 in the middle school. So they're doing a lot of the maintenance work that they would normally do over the summer, but because the kids are not here. So those are the big ones, and then there's a bunch of other smaller ones.
Everybody has I just emailed everybody the list.
I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The high school has obviously the largest number of projects. And the Buildings and Grounds Committee agreed to, in January, to take a tour of all the work that is being scheduled to make sure that is completed by the first week in January. So.
And this is okay with them? I mean, this isn't what they were hired to do. So are they?
They're not doing the jobs, they're cleaning, and the custodians are being shifted to maintenance, and the custodians are doing it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so they're not going to be doing these projects. They're
They're doing the cleaning,
how
and the
much
custodians are being
cleaning is
reassigned.
happening If no one's in the building.
We do have staff in the building.
I know, but it's not kids in a lunchroom, Kelly. Kelly. It's not kids
No,
stopping at the
I
toilet.
understand that. But they are, there was a bunch of things that they were doing as far as qualifying as cleaning as well.
Mhm.
You know,
I mean, I think that
they're-
if maintenance projects can be done and cleaning can be done, that is phenomenal. My bigger concern is that if we expect to have these positions filled when the schools reopen, that I think it's a bad move to let these individuals
They're also
go.
changing out all the air filters too throughout the building. So
Yeah,
they're doing that.
I don't,
All right.
I don't
Again,
disagree
you have
with
a
you.
you have a custodial
that-
staff that's already there, that is not. They don't have to clean nearly what they cleaned before.
Didn't we just approve more custodians? Part-time
No, that was the
custodians?
whole thing. We didn't.
We did. Didn't we
Yes, we
approve?
did.
We
Well,
approved,
we
we approved how many part-time
Yeah.
custodians did we
I
approve?
think it was a total of 13. I
13?
think it was 8 and
Didn't you-
5 or
didn't
something.
you
Yeah,
want
we,
seven
no, we
full-time?
did less of the
Some are
pandemic response people, and
right,
then
some
we
are
did
part-time,
of the
temporary.
Custodians.
as
So we have
part-time.
more custodians than
Some
we
are
had.
temporary custodians and some are
Right?
pandemic
We have-
I
response.
mean, go around the
Yeah.
room and see what.
I guess go around the room.
All right, so I'd like to go, Jen, where do you?
Oh,
Gotta go first.
I don't know.
Go first.
I don't want to go first.
I think the more that we learn about the virus and how it's transmitted, the cleaning protocol is a little overkill. It's an airborne virus, and obviously replacing those filters is probably the most important thing. Wearing masks and being social distanced. I do understand that some people might have a better sense of security with the cleaning that might go on, but at this point, I don't think it's necessary to have that intense cleaning during the day while the children are there. That aerosol spray in the evening is probably sufficient. That could be done by a custodian. So that's where I stand on the pandemic people.
So that's a no.
That sounds like a no.
No, yeah.
Ms. Bucieri?
No.
Mr. Sparta?
I don't think I need to reiterate no.
It's a no. Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Coughlin?
Sure, I think because we don't know when we are coming back, and yeah, I mean, if you let people go, and then we do have to hire more, whether we hire less, hire more, or whatnot, why would anyone take a job that they know they might just be let go in a few weeks?
Took under that presumption in September.
Hmm?
They took underneath that presumption in September.
True.
Why did they take it then?
I know, I'm for it.
I am in favor of maintaining the positions,
How about Joe?
and Ms. Pellet did not vote yet
Oh,
either.
Joe's
and
gone?
Mr. Sweeney is not on the Zoom.
Okay.
Oh, did he leave?
Ms. Pellet, you waited till the end, but now you're the tiebreaker.
Crud. Wow. Okay, I got to bring this back up to discussion then. Is it possible to, are these people locked in on their hours? Could we negotiate in some way to reduce the expense? Or could we talk to them about, I don't know. I feel like it is an expense that we really shouldn't be able, it's hard for me to justify it. I have to say I agree with some of what Mike said, although I do think that there is some importance to cleaning. So, I mean, for the virus, I don't think it's as important as we thought, but to keep people on, I don't know. I'm concerned about it. Isn't there a middle ground here that we could explore?
Aren't they already part-time employees?
They are already part-time.
They're already part-time employees, Jen.
But could we reduce hours further? I mean, we don't, do we need this much cleaning when the buildings are closed? Didn't we just discuss that? We don't need as much cleaning as when the buildings are filled with people. So I don't know. It feels like a lot to spend. It feels like we're just finding busy work for people. possibly, but I'm not sure. And that's why I don't want to vote on it, because I don't really know, I don't have enough visibility into what they're doing right now.
You need to vote on it though, because it's 3-3.
I mean, it is a buildings and grounds recommendation. So we have committees for a reason. If the committee in buildings and grounds recommends it, I mean, I just don't understand why we have committees then. We might as well just not have committees if we're not going to take their recommendation.
We operate by a board. We don't operate by a committee.
No, I know, but I just don't understand the work that the committees
There's a
go
reason why
through.
there's only 4 people on a committee, not 5.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
I
the
mean-
committees do the work and they bring back the work to the board, and then the full board has to make a balanced decision.
I mean, we spend an enormous time with the committees and then, we're,
But we don't want the full board to just be a rubber stamp.
no,
for
I'm
committees.
just saying that. I just don't understand
Nope,
that premise, but whatever.
Okay on TV.
The TV will turn off automatically.
We've been watching TV too
Oh,
long.
Matt,
TV will
Mr. Shea
turn
to
off.
the rescue.
All right, so Ms. Pellet, was that a no vote from you?
Okay, so let me just go back to what Kelly just said. So Kelly, the committee, you're confident as the committee chair that this work that they're doing is needed and necessary, and that's why you're recommending it? Or are you looking to hold positions? What's the motive? What's the?
I mean, I do a lot of tours with the Buildings and Grounds Committee, as you know. I know the things that need to be done. Daryl spoke to it in the committee. I agree with those assessments that work needs to be done. And I feel that by having a larger staff, we can cover more ground with being given this gift of time. So therefore, I would recommend it. And, our committee at that time felt very comfortable with the recommendation. I just, I mean, when Teresa recommends something with special education, because of her time and commitment to that committee, I take what she has to say to heart. And I mean, of course, not everybody can agree with everybody, but I just feel that people that take their committees very seriously really spend a lot of time on that, and we have to be mindful of what
So
they're
we
saying.
should just be following.
I believe that what you want done needs to be done. I trust your judgment in that. I don't think you're painting rooms unnecessarily, just to be clear. What I'm just not, sure about, and I'm not saying I'm arguing with you, I'm just saying it's not clear to me, because the argument, I'm hearing is we need to keep these people in case we need them. And then, then there's they're cleaning while these people are doing this work. And it's not clear to me whether we're paying them to do work or we're really paying them just to kind of hold them in place. And that's, if they're doing work and it's necessary work, I'm fine with it. And if that's what you're telling me, that's good. But if we're just paying them because we're worried, that we won't be able to hire people, I don't know if I'm as comfortable.
And I don't feel that 100% we're keeping them as placeholders or seat fillers in any way. I certainly am not wasteful with my spending. I just believe that the work does need to be done. And sometimes, like if you have the gift of time, which we have here, we can cover a lot of ground.
So basically what they're doing and what we learned between what I read and then in the meeting is that basically over the summer, and having been a teacher, I could attest many years I couldn't walk into my classroom because the floor was getting done, all the desks were out. There's always a big set of time you can't get into your classroom to do stuff, because summer is when all the big projects generally get done in a school. So what we're essentially doing right now at the moment is using the pandemic response employees to take over some of the smaller responsibilities that the custodians would normally be doing, and it frees up the custodians' time, so therefore they can go do right now, while schools are closed, some of the much bigger projects that they would never normally be able to do right now in December into January. So for example, on the list was painting classrooms. Right now the classrooms are empty, so therefore classrooms can get painted. They would never have been able to do that had we been in school. And they also would not be able to paint the classrooms, and there was a list of them on the list everybody just got, and they were put in order of necessity to have done. So if the custodians have to go off and go do the other jobs, they don't have time to paint. So if you think of this as using it like the summertime, we have bonus, and then we have extra people who are working and able to free up the custodians who then could go off and do the bigger jobs. We're kind of, in a sense, taking care of much more than we would be able to. So the pandemic response people by no means are sitting around twiddling their thumbs waiting for work. They are doing the things that they can do, such as changing filters and things of that nature, because they're not going to be painting, they're not going to be replacing a roof on a shed, but the custodians and maintenance are much more able and qualified to do that.
And Jen, I just want to note that we did set an appointment, we set a meeting for January 5th for us to tour the high school to verify that this work was done, everything, on the list. We could do a little checklist as we're touring. So we do have that set for 2 o'clock on January 5th to go through this list and verify that, yes, we approved of this, and we also are seeing that the work is done.
So,
All right, I'm satisfied. I'm going to go with yes.
so if we use Teresa's analogy, then next summer we don't need the pandemic relief, and we also have less custodians then.
No,
Because
then the
we're doing the work
custodians
now.
would go off and be
But
able
that's
to
what
now.
you just said. We're getting a head start on the summer.
The summer, right. So then if we get a head start in the summer and December, then come the summer, they'll actually be able to do other projects that maybe they never would have been able to get to, which therefore then we would be acting in a proactive manner, which is quite frankly a refreshing thing to do.
I mean, I don't believe we'll need, I don't believe over the summer we'll need the pandemic.
I sure hope
response.
not.
No. Well,
No, but that's what I said. But then the maintenance and custodians will be able to get stuff done now that they would have been normally doing in the summer, putting off other projects that now we can
Exactly.
proactively
So then
take care of.
need less
I don't know if you
custodians in the
noticed,
summer.
but Jen did vote yes.
Jen, so you're a yes?
Yeah, I'm a yes.
Okay, and
You'll leave?
Mr. Sweeney's not on the Zoom, so that would be 4 in favor of
we're keeping these.
over the next few weeks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item 7.
Oh, item 7, we touched on briefly. This is a request from Jen Smith. She has a hard time hearing people when they're at the podium. So we are hopefully going to adopt a sign-in sheet where the person just puts their names, especially spelling is a big thing with the names. So they'll put their names in their section of town before they speak, because it's hard to hear it on the recording.
It is very hard to hear at the podium, even
Yeah.
for us in the room. So I wonder if there's a different type of microphone or what have you that we could put there.
Oh, that's a good idea.
My issue is if I can crank the speakers up that they need that mean, but it will cause feedback.
Reverb.
Oh, okay, okay.
I am fine with that. Is everybody else on the board fine with that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Okay.
fine.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Recommendation number 1, it is recommended that the board approve professional development travel that complies with the provisions of NJSA 18A 11-12.
We have a motion for recommendation
Move.
1. Mr. Sparta, second.
Second.
Mr. Peak, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Peak, Dr. Peak,
Yes.
Mrs. Pellet,
Yes.
Mr. Sparta,
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata,
Yes.
Mrs. Buccieri,
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Recommendation number 2, you're welcome. Recommendation number 2, it is recommended that the board accept the amendment to the IDA consolidated grant due to carryover funds from 1920 school year.
Can we have a motion for recommendation H2? Move. Mr. Sparta, second.
Second.
Mr. Peak, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mrs. Pellet,
Yes.
Sparta.
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata. Mr. Buccieri.
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin.
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Yes.
Dr. Peak.
Yes.
And
Recommend-
Mr. Sweeney, yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back.
You
I was
you needed-
experiencing technical difficulties. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Man,
you needed your vote.
yeah. You saved
For
my
what?
life, Joe. Come on.
What happened?
You'll watch the replay.
Recommendation H3.
Recommendation number 3, it is recommended that the board accept the amendment to the Elementary and Secondary Education Act grant due to carryover funds from the 2019-2020 school year.
We have a motion for recommendation 3. Moved. Sparta, second. Mr. Peak, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Sparta,
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata,
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri,
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Peak,
Yes.
Mrs. Pellet.
Yes.
Recommendation number 4, it is recommended that the board accept the amendment to the CARES Act Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Grant to include additional funding of $8,643.
Can we have a motion for recommendation 4? Moved. Mr. Sparta, second. Mr. Peak, questions or comments? Seeing none, can we please have a roll call vote?
Mr. Sweeney,
Yes.
Mr. Annunziata,
Yes.
Mrs. Bucieri,
Yes.
Mrs. Coughlin,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Peak,
Yes.
Mrs. Pellet,
Yes.
Mr. Sparta.
Yes. Thank you. Item I is public participation, and this is for items on the agenda or other business. So we will first go to members of the public who are attending here in person. You'll have 5 minutes. Please state your name and part of town.
Okay. Adina Luthner, Pleasant Valley Lake. A couple of our parents around the district shared their story, so I will continue to share my positive story as far as my children are concerned with virtual learning and some of the things that maybe are the moral of the stories. My children are having an excellent experience. Are there tears? Sometimes, but overall an excellent experience. I really have to say that that's from the teachers. They are on after hours videoing one-on-one when my son gets frustrated with his writing. They are tailoring, which is I think what we're asking for here, the late policies and all of their policies to the specific child and the specific problem the family's having. I think I email them at least once or twice a week. I'm sure there are families that email them more. I don't want the stories of full frustration to weigh heavily on the teachers who are doing the right thing. There were some suggestions of too many Zooms, not enough Zooms, let's have an off day. Personally speaking, yesterday my son was diagnosed as twice exceptional. It's a lot to take in right now. He needs that consistency. He will absolutely break down if we have these break days. I do understand there are kids that need him. He's had a lot of trouble going from, has always been fully virtual, to seeing his main teachers every day, to now the hybrid kids are home, so let's have a week of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're gonna see your teachers, and Tuesday, Thursday, to now we see everybody. He really this week was seeing the teachers and the special teachers. He's doing really well with that. I really don't want that to change because he needs this consistency. So the moral of the story is, as an educator, I understand that every child is different, but I feel like we're looking at a solution at the district level. Could there be some things decided at a district level? Absolutely. But I think we need to take faith in our teachers, our educators, our administrators to tailor exceptions, to tailor programs to individual needs at this point. We have some kids that do need a pass fail. We have some kids that do need a number grade. We have some kids that need the same schedule every day. We have some kids that need a break. So I just want to, like I said, the moral of the story is we're looking at this at the very big picture, and I really think we need to look at it at the smaller picture as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing nobody else here in person, We'll go to those attending on the Zoom. Mr. Martin Herringer has his hand raised.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm from Portland Road in Vernon, that's by Dairy Queen. I have a couple of things to say. I don't know why you can't see me, but I guess that's fine. We are running the robotics club on Discord. And I currently have 20 kids in the robotics club. And some of them are watching the Board of Ed meetings. And so the Board of Ed meetings are being discussed, even though that has very little to do with robotics. And the great thing came up in those discussions. And I had a discussion with most of my 20 kids, if I can say it so, on how they feel about it. They basically fell into two groups. One group was the kids who are doing better in grades remotely because they feel they waste less time with school and more time with learning because they are proactive themselves and they're all high achievers. And the other were really struggling. And I know now things are different because we are completely in remote at this time, but we're going to open up in some stuff again. And so here I want to air some of the complaints that I got from those kids. Number one complaint was compressed schedule. Compressed schedule, especially then when it went online, does not work for a lot of kids. By the time you're in class, say hi, it's time to say goodbye. I'm just quoting, okay? The other thing is, what was mentioned here, is breaks in between classes. And the third thing that was mentioned a lot was the less of interactive work, like group work that was in the teach that they are missing. Now, we in robotics, now I'm not a teacher, I'm just a guy who's running robotics. We do interactive because, in my opinion, we started off on Zoom and Zoom did not work for us at all. So we went to Discord because we can do interactive. We can split up in groups. We can leave each other messages because it's an included bulletin board. And in my opinion, it lends itself much better to get the message across for the kids. And it gives them something that they love. After we do our work, we have an anything section. And in the anything section, they can go and they can do the kid stuff. They talk about knitting and this and that and cooking and whatever, you know? And then they go back and they split up into the groups and they do their robotics work, mechanics, CAD, etc., etc., etc. And if somebody runs into a problem, he leaves a message right there on the board. All messages are saved. The important ones get pinned. And for everyone to see, or directly to me, if they want to ask something. Some people, especially new people, sometimes have the problem. If I ask the question publicly, people might think I'm stupid, you know? So they need to get the confidence after a while. They just ask the question privately. And then sooner or later, they see it's an open forum where everybody has questions and we all work together. So I would ask to A, when we go back, never ever to compress schedule again. Anything is better than that. And B, check out Discord and see how that works. If you can make this work for the kids, because the kids definitely think it's a far superior platform to do teaching than Discord is anything they've seen in their classes. Now, I want to make also sure that's only 20 kids. It's a self-selecting sample. And because kids who want to do robotics, and they're all high schoolers. So I have not any contact with middle schoolers or first graders, etc. Okay, so I invite you, anybody who wants to, I think you all know how to get a hold of me. I sent you a link, a special invitation. that you can come stop by and take a look. Okay, so
Thank you.
that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right. I'll try to go in the order that I saw the names pop up in. Miss Vicky Smith.
There we go. Okay, there I am. Vicky Smith, I live in the Lake Walk Hill section of Vernon. I am the high school English teacher, and I am president of the VTEA. There are a few things I would like to address. The first one being at the beginning of the meeting, a parent, I guess she interpreted what I said mistakenly. I do not feel flippant about students' mental health. Please do not understand it that way. I am very concerned about our students' mental health, as I'm concerned about our faculty's mental health. I have several students I am extremely concerned about. It is an issue, and I do understand that. I did say children are resilient, which the majority of them are. But please don't take that as being flippant about the mental health of our students. That is not my intention whatsoever. There were a couple of things that were brought up, and all I kept thinking was, I heard the phrase over and over again, teachers should do this, teachers should do that. We're doing a lot. And it's not easy because we were expected, you saw the beginning of your meeting, the technical issues. You're fortunate enough to have Matt Shea there, okay? We don't have a Matt Shea. Something goes wrong. We have to take care of it. We have to work around it. And issues come up. I had the one day where I tried to give a test. Schoology totally crowed it out on me. I have a Remind that I have students use for texting. Obviously, it's at the high school level, so I can do this. But we work around the problems, and problems come up every day. Sometimes they're minor technical issues. Sometimes they're major technical issues. We are understanding of our students. We do understand that not everyone's home situation is ideal. We are working with students. We are working with parents. We are not, I don't want to say not the enemy, but I said before, we have to work together. And it's a little disconcerting when we're told how to do the jobs that we're trained for, that we've been doing this for a long time, by no offense to anyone in particular, but by people that haven't been in a classroom. We're willing to listen to ideas, don't get me wrong, but just please keep in mind that we're under a lot of stress as well. We have educators that are home with young children, and their children are virtual students in the district. So they're dealing with two sides of that coin. So I thank Ms. Luther for bringing up the positive things, the positive aspects, and the positive experience our children are having. There are positive aspects children are having. We're reaching out to students. I see students improving. I do see students falling behind, but I see that every year. We are reaching out and trying to get to those students and trying to give every opportunity. The lack of passing time, I brought that up. Maybe we stick 2 minutes in there, but I know if a student comes in a few minutes late, it's like, okay, you're here, you're here, you're here, you're here. About 5 minutes, I'll still accept students in, because I can, with how I teach, I can see who comes into the waiting room. I can understand how some people that are doing a lesson, that might not be a possibility. We have to just work through these issues. It's not going to be perfect every day. It's hard. And then we have, as educators on our plate, the extra added SGOs that we still have to worry about, our evaluations that we have to worry about, observations, and our own mental health, and our families. We have a lot on our plate as well. So let's work together to find solutions. And one of those ways we can work together is, I have seen some disturbing things, and they've been brought to my attention on social media. When our children are learning about social media in elementary school, and we tell them, before you say anything, before you post anything, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it helpful? Please remember that when you're posting on social media. If you have a question or a concern with an educator, speak to them. We're willing to listen. You can email them. Please don't put things all over social media. It doesn't help anyone. I think we need to, again, take a step back, take a breath, and just think, is it going to be helpful? Because the things that I was seeing were not helpful, they were not necessary, and they definitely were not kind. And one of the reasons the Zooms that some people do daily, I am one of those people that do a different link daily. One of the reasons is I'm trying to avoid being Zoom bombed or hacked. There have been several incidences from my friends in education where they had somebody that hacked into it and a string of obscenities came out of their mouth, or they were showing inappropriate pictures. So that's one of the ways I try to prevent that. So that's why mine changes every day.
Ms. Smith, I'm sorry to cut you off, but your 5 minutes is finished.
Okay, and thank you very much, and I'll just leave it as, let's all work together and do the best we can, because we are trying. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
And I just want to say, I had a feeling there was a reason for that whole different Zoom link, and that wasn't meant as a criticism. I'm aware that there's usually a reason for every idea that we have, as parents sitting at home thinking, why don't they do this? There's always a reason that it's not being done. It's just, this is a situational issue. It's not, it's not that teachers aren't doing, I just want to keep reiterating that. I don't mean any of what I say as a criticism of teachers. I'm just, this is a situation, and it's a difficult situation all around, and we need to look for solutions that work, and we need to work together on that. But it isn't about, teachers are wrong. That's not what it's about.
No, I just wanted to provide an explanation. And if I could just take 1 second to do a shout out to my members, if possible.
I just like to make sure that we give everybody an equitable chance.
This is good news for the district. That HIPAA grant that Lisa Herkler achieved is a $10,000 grant that she worked very hard for. That was through the work of NJEA. And then the VTEA used their Pride grant for over Thanksgiving, provided meals for over 17 families. So I wanted to leave on a positive note.
Thank you. That is really, thank you for your work in the community. Okay. Mr. Sean Reed, you all have 5 minutes. Okay, his hand went down. So Miss Teresa Linsky. Oh, Mr.
Sean Reed. There's a
Reed.
delay, I guess.
Mr. Reed, can you hear us?
Ms. Reed.
Oh, Miss Reed?
Just saying.
Okay, it seems like we're having a technical difficulty, so we'll go on to Miss Teresa Linsky. Okay.
So again, I'd like to say thank you so much for the appointment tonight and for your support. And I look forward to meeting all of you and working with you and the staff, the students, and for the taxpayers of Vernon Township. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Congratulations.
Okay, and I believe that Miss Reed is trying to raise her hand again.
Is she on mute by chance?
Miss Reed, can you hear us?
Oh, there she is.
Oh,
Hey, there she is.
are you muted?
Oh.
Yep, that was the camera.
Okay, we'll give that another 10 seconds. If we can't get that fixed, we apologize that we weren't able to hear from you this evening, but you are always able to email the central office administration or the board. Our emails are on the district website. Okay, thank you, Matt. All right, seeing no other public comments at this time, we will close it to the public and move on to item J, which is open board member forum.
Can I talk about, just give some praise to one of our teachers up at the high school?
Yes.
Christina Winters, who teaches science. She's a chem teacher at the high school. She did a virtual field trip to St. Barnabas, and they actually saw a live kidney transplant.
Oh, wow.
So the students actually saw the process happening. They couldn't take pictures, of course, because of HIPAA laws, but it was a laparoscopic surgery and they actually got to interview two people who had donated kidneys. As she said, you can tell by my description, I'm still blown away by the experience. So her students had this wonderful experience because Ms. Winters made this connection to Barnabas and the New Jersey Sharing Network, which presented information on the organization and organ donation. And it sounds like the children were very inspired. I do have a picture of the doctor, and we'll put it on one of our podcasts.
That's great.
And we also heard from Sussex County Community College. Their new program for optics technology is finally set. We're very excited about that. Hopefully we can get our students over to SCC once COVID is over. But we are looking into possibly doing some sort of program where our students could be involved in that remotely while being actually physically in the high school. So we're going to pursue that. So to Corey Homer, thank you very much for all your work on this project. And of course, the students who are over at Sussex County Community College that get involved with this would then be working with Thor Labs.
Great. Thank you, Chuck. Anything else for open board member?
So this is for the new board. The Northern Hills board meeting will be on January 11th. So whoever the representative is from Vernon, let them know. It'll be Monday evening.
I'd be happy to do it.
I think that'd be great.
I mean, we can discuss it at the reorg, but I mean,
Right.
Mike, you've done a great job there. They've always spoken highly of you. And, I'd be happy to do it, I think.
Yeah, I think that makes sense with your role on the board as chairperson of Special Services Committee.
Yeah, I just wrote it down January 11th.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Anything else for open board member? All right. Can we have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Sparta?
Second.
Second, Ms. Gutierrez. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Okay.